Conveniences like this shouldn't get in the way of such an important public issue. Many people began to wonder if these protests were orchestrated to divert attention from the impending ED raids, from the action, from the bad publicity that the Gandhis were getting. And that is perhaps the reason why not everyone felt compelled enough to go out there and fight with conviction, because it was actually a farce. I'll play out this video, and then also, viewers, we caught up with Salman Khurshid, who said, look, I'm here to fight for my netas. Forget the Aam Aadmi right now. We are fighting for our netas because they fight for us. Viewers, that has invited a lot of ridicule. The BJP, other political parties, other commentators have come out and said, see, we always told you that these protests were actually a cover to distract attention, to deflect attention, to in some ways or the other play the victim, to win over the public through this deceptive ploy of pretending to speak for the public. Listen in, viewers. First the Chidambaram video and Chidambaram discussing the weather and whether even he should be stepping out or not, and then Salman Khurshid.
That's what I'm saying. No, it's raining out to go out. That's what I'm saying. No, it's raining out to go out.
परिवार को बचाने के लिए मैं क्यों आऊंगा? मैं अपने नेता को बचाने के लिए आऊंगा। मेरा नेता मुझे बचाता है। अगर इसको वो परिवार की परिभाषा बना देते हैं तो मुझे कोई उसमें कष्ट नहीं।
Several other Congress leaders that Times Now spoke to also echoed Salman Khurshid and justified, in fact, what he said. He says, we are here to fight for our leaders. Against what, viewers? Against what? Against answering legitimate questions that are being asked by an investigative agency at the behest of a court? Let's open this up. Let's open this up. Let's get a sense of what our panel thinks of all of this. I want to begin with Tehseen Poonawalla. George Kurian is also there with us, political strategist who speaks for the Congress. But Tehseen Poonawalla, is the Congress eroding its credibility by defending the first family? Is there even backing for all of this? You know, this whole business of saying that we're speaking up for the public, and when you are taking upon yourself the challenge of speaking for the public, Tehseen Poonawalla, why should you be afraid of a few spots of rain? जनता की सेवा करने के लिए तो थोड़ा discomfort झेलना पड़ता है. Tehseen Poonawalla, you have to, brave the elements a little bit. But your leaders, the senior most leaders of your party, the people who sort of ascend the topmost position of the party are being deterred by rain, saying, "Arey bhai, commitment clearly lacking." Were they forcefully bussed there to do a big drama? Because that's what the BJP is saying, Tehseen Poonawalla. You've heard this video yourself. Then you've heard Salman Khurshid saying, I'm only here to speak, forget the public, I'm here to speak for the Parivar. They save me, they butter my bread, so why shouldn't I be here? Unko bachane ke liye main aaya hu. Tehseen Poonawalla, why are you pulling this joke on the public? What's going on?
Namaskar, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Namaskar to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. The big joke party, or the Bada Jhota party, as I call the Bharatiya Janata Party, will of course come out with lies and half-baked truths. Salman Khurshid said what he said, and I'm saying this with all the authority at my command, because Srimati Priyanka Gandhi Vadra ji and Shri Rahul Gandhi ji were being dragged, were being pulled, were being taken forcefully, detained. Now, Rahul, you and I may have several differences of opinion, me and Mr. Malviya may have several differences of opinion, but when in recent history, Mr. Rahul Shivshankar, you're a journalist I admire, Have you last seen Sushma Swaraji, the late Sushma Swaraji, being dragged by a hair, her hand being twisted? When have you seen Rahul Gandhi ji, Arun Jaitley ji, the late Arun Jaitley ji, being pushed the way Rahul Gandhi ji was pushed and thrown when he was on his way to Lakhimpur Kheri? That incidentally reminds me, Rahul, you in your introduction said the Gandhis were never on the street, but Times Now was live and I was with you in the studio covering Hathras, Unnao, Lakhimpur Kheri, Sonbhadra, where they were continuously detained, hit by the police, beaten up. So they've been on the streets. This was an agitation for GST, inflation, and for price rise and economy, something that the finance minister lied on the floor about. She said inflation does not exist.
But it appears to be an afterthought, Mr. Chidambaram. Fair enough, big issues. And I remember what I said, Tehseen, I think you're misquoting me slightly.
No, I do.
One second, Tehseen Punani, listen to me. I said that in the recent past, that's all. Of course.
And I admit. So can I just make one point?
Don't, hang on.
I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, don't misquote me. Secondly, let me make this.
Misquote.
Okay, one second. Tehseen ji, 1 second. Second important point is this. If the cause is so big, a few spots of rain, I mean the Aam Aadmi that you're fighting for works. He has no choice. He works for this rain. But Mr. Chidambaram and company have a problem joining him in the street because थोड़ा बारिश हो गया है. I mean, it's too, it's like a cat who doesn't want to get wet.
So I have a point to answer. I have a point to make, but I'll answer that specific charge of Chidambaram and those visuals. You see, so I spoke to Rajiv Shukla and everybody. That's outside Parliament where the car is supposed to come, and since the car was not there, they were wondering should they go in the rain or no. But I request you, ask the research team behind. Can I please make
what a statement it would make? You remember one election was swung. Now you yourself said this, Tehseen Poonawala. You yourself said that Sharad Pawar, listen to me, Sharad Pawar standing in the rain in Maharashtra swung the election away in 1 hour from the BJP. So tell me something. Tell me something.
Sir, I want to attend, but just allow me
to stand in the rain.
No, sir. Sir, I was answering that. You just interrupted me. Just let me, give me 1 minute and I'll be done, sir. No, I'll only take 1 minute. 2 very quick points. Please do not believe me. Ask your research team from behind to put out the visuals of the same 3 gentlemen, Chidambaram, Karti Chidambaram, Rajiv Shukla and Shashi Tharoor walking in the rains. It was a prior discussion on how to go, and I think that's normal. Okay. There's nothing wrong. But I just want to end with 1 point, and I will end. I'm going to say a couplet. It's from Sahil Ludhianvi. It's very important for the BJP to understand, and it will summarize the situation. चाहते शौहरते इज्जते उल्फते सब कुछ इस दुनिया में रहता नहीं. मिस्टर मालविया, चाहते शौहरते इज्जते उल्फते सब कुछ इस दुनिया में रहता नहीं. आज भाजपा है जहां कल कोई और था. ये भी एक दौर है, वो भी एक दौर था. घमंड रावण का भी नहीं टिका था. ये आपका जो घमंड है, आपने श्रीमती प्रियंका गांधी वाड्रा को जमीन पे खींचा, उनका बाल खींच रहे हो, आप उनका हाथ मोड़ रहे हो. ये घमंड नहीं टिकेगा. घमंड रावण का भी नहीं टिका. आपका क्या टिकेगा साहब? आपका क्या टिकेगा?
ओके, तहसीन, just coming back to the point, viewers. Now, this is very important. Once that video went viral of Chidambaram and company behaving like wet cats, not wanting to go out in the rain, the backlash was so severe that they actually had to then abandon course and venture out. So one has to understand the chronology of what actually transpired. But the mask seems to have fallen. Amit Malviya, why today is the BJP saying that the Congress is eroding its own credibility by defending the first family? Why are you today saying that this is a sham?
Well, Rahul, it's a sham because of several reasons. Most importantly, this protest that was organized today really had no context. Similarly, last year, a protest on the same day was organized, and that too was out of the blues. Clearly, the Congress wishes to send out a signal to its constituency that they would oppose or hit the streets in the name of protest on the day when Ram Janmabhoomi Shilanyas happened, when Article 370 was abrogated. That is the primary reason why this protest has been organized. Secondly, it was not done because they have suddenly discovered their love for the people of this country. It has happened because the Gandhis, namely Sonia and Rahul Gandhi, have been called by the Enforcement Directorate for investigation in the massive National Herald scam. And the news is tightening, and therefore they are on the streets trying to play victim so that they can somehow save the image of the Gandhis. But it's unlikely to happen because there is huge evidence of wrongdoing, corruption, impropriety, fraud in this particular case, and the Gandhis will have to be made accountable. They will face law and eventually go to the jail.
Okay, so you're saying these are all diversion tactics. You're saying these are all diversion tactics.
Not recognizing and doing all this tamasha and drama.
No, but the Congress turns around and says that they are being witch hunted. No, hang on, Mr. Malviya.
The Congress is about saving their last destitute of leadership.
Okay, so hang on.
What is
Mr. Malviya,
and denying
can you hear me?
Use the right to celebrate the Shilanyas that happened 2 years ago of a problem that has been around for over 500 years.
Okay, one second. Mr. Malviya, you just heard Tehseen Poonawalla, and what did he say? He says that this is a crackdown of sorts against anyone who speaks up for the public interest against the Modi government. You set upon them the enforcement directorate, etc. A quick answer to this, Mr. Malviya. This is what they're saying. Can you hear me? Mr. Malviya, quick response to this. Do we have you? I think we might have lost Mr. Malviya.
Can I make a point?
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't hear you, Rahul. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, it's very simple. The Congress maintains that you have set the ED upon the leadership. You are out to wipe out the leadership because the leadership remains the biggest voice or point of resistance to the NDA in this country.
Rahul, I'm glad you asked this question. Let me set the record straight once and for all. This matter was highlighted in 2012 and an FIR registered in 2013, and the courts looked at the matter at that stage when the UPA was in power, and since then the matter has been under investigation. Every investigation, whether it is the Gandhis in the National Herald case or Partha Chatterjee, Mamta Banerjee and other TMC leaders in the SSC scam, or Nawab Malik or Anil Deshmukh of the NCP in Maharashtra, or Satyendra Jain of the Aam Aadmi Party, and hopefully Sisodia very soon. All of these have been initiated at the behest of judicial review and court finding instances of wrongdoing and having asked investigating agencies to probe the matter further. It is not the government's task to ask agencies to go and investigate. Please, let's understand this.
Okay,
so
not
if
the government's
opposition
job.
is blaming the ED, then are they also blaming the courts?
Okay, George
That is
Kurian.
the problem. I mean, they have to believe in some institution of this country.
Okay, George Kurian, I want to ask you a simple question. If you believe the enforcement directorate is being misused by the NDA, then will you oppose the enforcement directorate's case against Satyendra Jain, who is a minister in the Kejriwal government? Will you stop calling for his resignation? Will you say that he must not step down now from his post because the ED is also going after him, if I were to apply your logic, at the behest of the NDA? George Kurian.
The enforcement directorate today is doing selective targeting. We have to all understand. I'm not against the enforcement directorate. If they have merit of the case and if they are confident, they have all the required documents that can make a case. Why not? But why selective targeting? That is the big point. Because one has to understand, it's not that BJP ministers from the BJP don't have any corruption charges against them, which has not come in the public domain in the past. That is not the case. So, for enforcement directorate to gain the confidence of the people, today the common man believes that enforcement directorate is self-targeting the operation leaders, because the government, the NDA government, they don't want to give space to the operation because they're countering them with charges of inflation, falling rupee, unemployment, rising fuel prices, rising prices of commodities, GST, things like that. So this is nothing but a diversion tactics, maybe communal harmony and enforcement directive. This is nothing, they're playing a diversion tactics because to cover up their failures, They are insecure today, the Bharatiya Janata Party, is what I would say.
Mr. Kurian, let me come and ask you this question. And this is very important. And this is a question that you might find a little difficult to answer. You're saying today that the ED is doing the dirty work of the government, going after legitimate political opponents selectively. Now, if you remember, when the UPA was in power, the Supreme Court said that the CBI was a caged parrot. That it was also acting at the behest of your government. Then would you concede that the Congress had used the CBI to launch a witch hunt against Amit Shah in Gujarat? Simple question.
Well, I don't think so, because when UPA was in power,
Right.
the institutions were free and they were free to work. There was no interference at all.
Oh, I see. There was no interference, was there?
Absolutely no.
So why was the Supreme Court then calling the CBI a caged parrot? Was the Supreme Court off its head or something?
Supreme Court would have their own viewpoints.
But it doesn't mean that it was an indictment. It has its own, it only gives views which are not formed on fact, Mr. Kurian. I think even Tehseen Poonawala is finding this logic slightly perplexing, and I'm only putting it politely. I think he's really laughing at you. So I'm asking you, sir, when the CBI was caged by the Supreme Court, or accused of being caged by the UPA, then the Supreme Court was just expounding a view, and that CBI was acting very, very well against Amit Shah out of a sense of a clean conscience. How do you make this distinction, Mr. Kurian?
Rahul, you have to understand one thing.
Right.
Today when Rahul spoke to the press, he did mention that we had given the freedom to all the institutions. Supreme Court, being an independent body, had its own observations the same way. So there was no interference at all. And it had all the liberty to express themselves.
Now, Mr. Kurian, this is a difficult one. This is very, very difficult. So let me now tell you. This is what the Congress said about Satyendra Jain following ED raids on him, and I'm quoting April 6, 2022, and I'm quoting the Delhi Pradesh Congress Committee Chief Chaudhry Anil Kumar, and this is what he said. The Aam Aadmi Party chief has repeatedly claimed that it is the most honest party and that it will take the strictest action against those who have been found to have indulged in corruption. However, when it comes to their own minister, they turn a blind eye. Why is Satyendra Jain still in the cabinet when the ED has attached the property of his relative? Now, sir, why is Sonia Gandhi still the president when the ED has attached her principal asset? Same question, same issue. George Kurian.
Sonia Gandhi ji and Rahul have fully adhere to all the enforcement directive summons, all the questioning that has happened.
Now listen, here again, viewers, two different yardsticks being applied by the Congress party. Abhijit Iyer Mitra wants to weigh in. I'm going to bring him in. Just for the record, 1 second, sir. Mr. Poonawala, 1 second. And you can respond to me. I'm just quoting something. It's very important. And we are talking about the Tulsiram Prajapati case and the Shorabuddin case. These are alleged fake encounters. What the special CBI court said in December 2014 when discharging Amit Shah in these cases, quote, I found substance in the main contention made by the applicant, Mr. Shah, that he was involved in the case by the CBI for political reasons, unquote, Special CBI Judge M.B. Gosavi.
जी
Tehseen Poonawala,
may I respond to that?
आप जब चलाएं CBI को केज करके किसी के खिलाफ तो वो जस्टिस है.
May I respond to that?
आज की डेट में वो अत्याचार है. ये कैसे हो गया? पूनावाला साहब.
I'll respond to that precisely on that case, and I want to make another point. One, Mr. Korean, I wasn't laughing at you. There was something else that I was smiling at.
Yes.
But let me make two very pertinent points. In the Tulsi Prajapati case, the SIT that was investigating Mr. Modi, the head of that, of the Sohrabuddin case, Shri Satyapal Singh Ji, today is the minister in the Modi government. And Mr. Amit Shah Ji, when he got a clean chit in the honorable courts, the judge went on to become a governor. You may think that's fair. That's fair. I'm not getting into the merits or demerits of that. There is another point that I want to make, which is extremely crucial. I am not going to deny that the Congress misused agencies. Of course it misused agencies. How can I sit here and deny it? But Mr. Modi...
But not against Mr. Amit Shah. Not against Mr. Modi. Those were exceptions. They were actually guilty.
I've got your question. I'm replying to it. I've understood your question. Now, Mr. Modi promised the people of India, including you, Rahul Ji, including Iyer Mitra, including Karan Verma Ji, that 2014 he's creating a new India. Modi Ji can't get it in new India like Purana Bharat.
So then tell me something. Why has Mamata Banerjee decided to sack? 1 second, then let's go point by point. The ED has gone after, in your words, opposition leaders. So who have they gone after? Partha Chatterjee. Listen to me. Look, there is no doubt that there has been selective action, and I can endorse that, and I say it very openly. But let's at least look at, so let's look at who the opposition is targeted and what has become on them. Let's look at the 5 or 4 top leaders. Home Minister of Maharashtra, former Mr. Deshmukh, he has got no relief from the courts. The IT had called upon the Gandhis to answer certain questions. The courts have given them no relief. The Gandhis moved to quash these cases, all these probes. The court has disagreed, sent you back to the trial court.
That's not true.
1 second.
That's not true. That's not true, sir.
Let me finish. Partha Chatterjee comes out, says, I'm innocent, blah, blah, blah. His own party boss says, you are not fit to be my minister. Satyendra Jain, the court says, prima facie, there is evidence, prosecutable evidence against Satyendra Jain. You come out and say Satyendra Jain should also quit. So the ED suddenly becomes okay, kosher, very upright in these cases, but somehow develops a jaundiced view of the Gandhis. How does this work? And let me also tell you, viewers, the Gandhis come out and say that, oh, you know, we are fighting the issue of price rise. Okay. Now let me tell you, viewers, and I'll take you back in time a little bit. In April 2022, the center cuts duties on fuel. But opposition ruled Maharashtra, Bengal, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Jharkhand did not reduce tax on petrol. Now, if they were so concerned about our welfare, they would have done so. Rahul Gandhi, in fact, would have gone and done a dharna in Mumbai against his own government there. The Aghadi government didn't do it. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, what's going on here?
You didn't allow me to answer the ED question.
I don't.
Okay, answer it. Answer it very quickly, sir. I'll bring in Mr. Iyer Mitra. Yes. Sorry,
Abhijit, I sorry for taking your time.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yes, I am saying this on record. There does not, you keep saying that why don't the Gandhis quash the case? The BJP, there is no case filed. There was one case filed in an independent judiciary when the Congress was there. That case has been shut as a Subramaniam Swami to you, Rahul Shivshankar.
Sir, I said the probes, you wanted the probes quashed. Did you not want the probe quashed? Am I misleading? You have not got relief. The probe is going on because prima facie there is obviously a case to be answered for.
Income tax is not criminal.
Now you can't, constantly. Sir,
ask them.
Sir,
tell them to do a fact check.
Sir, did you not move? Can I ask you a question?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yes, sir, they are trying to divert the attention of the citizens from price rise.
Okay.
That's it.
Abhijit Iyer Mitra, I will quote what the trial court has said about this issue.
In an income tax
I'll put out the graphic and I'll quote. I did it 2 days back, viewers. I'll bring out what the trial court has said point by point about the Herald case and the role of the family and young Indians. I will just do it. Give me 30 seconds. No, 1 second. 1 second.
I don't deny that.
Well, you don't deny, then what are we talking about?
An income tax case.
1 second. Mr. Iyer Mitra, please go ahead.
So look, let's assume that everything that Tehseen said is correct. the opposition here is to the case even being investigated. Why are you against an investigation? See, conviction is a different thing. There were accusations made against Modi for Godhra and whatnot. The cases went on for 15, 20 years, God knows how long. And he acquitted himself in court fighting. Did you see any BJP worker come out on the street? In fact, you can say that it was the Congress's misuse of agencies and the cases against him that in a way led to a sympathy wave and made him Prime Minister. Now, Narendra Modi, if you claim he is misusing the ED, he is giving you a favor. He is giving you the tools to create a sympathy wave for yourself. And remember, the BJP never went out to protest anything that happened to Narendra Modi during the investigation or Amit Shah during the investigation. Now you are protesting when there is price rise and God knows what not else. It seems a bit dissociative. It seems that the Congress isn't interested in the common man and it is more interested in one family. I don't see a better political platform than for the Gandhis to acquit themselves in the Supreme Court, High Court, whatever. They should be welcoming the...
They should be welcoming the probe. So they can claim absolute vindication, just like the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has done once he was given relief in the Gujarat riots cases by the Supreme Court. What better? What better way?
Rahul, there is no arrest being made. It is just an investigation.
Investigation, exactly. And let me just quickly tell you, viewers, what the trial court said, and I want to bring in Karan Verma also. It said there was no provision in law for the grant of an interest-free loan by a political party, the Congress, for a commercial purpose to a public limited company like AJL. This, viewers, was said categorically, the trial court. There was prima facie criminal breach of trust by the accused on the existing shareholders of AJL and against the company. Who were these shareholders, viewers of AJL? They were freedom fighters, good Samaritans, people of eminence. Public funds of the Congress party were diverted for a commercial purpose by the accused. The accused, not the victims. The accused, Karan Verma, yet the Gandhis call themselves victims. The question that should be asked really is that you go and ask questions of every other Neta on earth. What locus standi do you have to be crying vendetta when the CBI court that discharged Shah in the Sharabuddin case said that he was the target for political reasons? Mr. Verma, do you think this is hypocritical or am I being hypocritical?
Look, yeah. Oh, it's hypocrisy of the highest order by the Congress. Look, Rahul, there's a reason why the Congress is reduced to the political margins that it has reduced to. And why BJP has been in a pole position. They have not only won in the courts of people, but if you look at the history in the courts of law, BJP has always been absolved of any sorts of allegations and they've come out on top. Whether it was reprimanding Tista Sitalwad, whether it was 2002 or whether it was the unconditional apology that Rahul Gandhi had to give for his careless remark of Chaukidar Chor hai. He had to apologize for that. Now today, here, let's leave aside what you and I are saying. What are the courts saying? The Metropolitan Magistrate said that the Young Indian Limited is a sham of an entity that is being used to convert public money to private use. The Income Tax Appellate Tribunal has given scathing remarks, scathing indictments to the Gandhis and said that the motives of the assessee look uncertain. And look, the Gandhis have exhausted all their options. They tried their best to halt the income tax assessment of the 2011-12. They could not do that. And 100 crore notice was slapped on them. They tried to halt the ED probe. They could not do that. The Supreme Court, in fact, empowered the ED on 27th July. The fact is the Gandhis are on a loose wicket, be it in the courts of people or the courts of law, and it is their frustration which is spilling over. They are trying to cloak it with price rise and unemployment, but the cloak is as poor as Young India Limited is because it's a sham and it's a rot at its core.
Sir, may I respond?
Well, also, 1 second, viewers. Now, Tehseen Poonawala, let me just read. What are the sections that the
420,
Gandhis...
120B, 420, 120.
No, let me read
I'll
them
tell you.
out. Let me read them out. Let me read them out, sir, since you might have short-term memory loss. Let me refresh your memory. Or maybe you did then. I don't know why you were... No, then why were you burying these facts? Let me bring them out, viewers. On bail, section 403, dishonest misappropriation of property. 406, criminal breach of trust. 420, cheating. Read with 120B, criminal conspiracy of the Indian Public Penal Code, rather.
Correct.
They're out on bail in this case.
You.
The case has not been quashed. They got bail in 2015. The Delhi High Court in 2015 and the Supreme Court in 2016 allowed the trial to proceed, did not quash the case.
Correct.
Tehseen Poonawalla, why are you misleading the
answered my
country?
question. You've exactly answered my question. Therefore, please allow me to finish. Therefore, the matter in this particular case, which is a criminal breach of trust as per the CBI agency, is already in trial. ED has no role to play. For ED to take cognizance of this, there has to be an
Amit
FIR.
Malviya.
Where is the FIR?
Respond.
And by themselves, one more thing, just one more line. These sections I quoted to you as well.
I'm sorry.
They're not scheduled.
An FIR is not mandatory for ED to take cognizance.
I am sorry, you don't understand the rules. An FIR is not mandatory in ECIR is for an investigation. For prosecution, FIR is mandatory.
Okay, one second.
Read the judgment.
Amit Malviya.
And by themselves, these are not scheduled.
Gentlemen, 1 second. Amit Malviya comes in, takes on Tehseen Poonawalla on a fact. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Look, Rahul, I mean, it's all great to come on a television studio and defend the Gandhis. Why don't they just go to the court and make the same argument with the kind of passion they make them night after night after night? Because the courts don't seem to be convinced. The courts have evidences and facts to the contrary, and they believe that there is ample evidence of wrongdoing, corruption, fraud, and what you will. So the truth of the matter is that the ED is doing a job that has been tasked to it by the courts of this country. And no, you don't need a specific FIR for any agency to investigate. If there is a matter that is sub judice, the court is looking into it and has asked for an investigation, the ED is well within its right to go and investigate. And also,
Tehseen Poonawalla, very quickly. Tehseen Poonawalla, let me ask you this question on the back of what Mr. Malviya has been saying. Okay, this is what Mr. Malviya is saying, go to court. Now let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. ED has already attached the immovable property located at Panchkula. Fact? Is it a fact? Yes or no?
Yes.
If this is a fake case taken to a absolutely obtuse length and property has been attached, why has the Congress not contested this attachment?
Because there is no FIR file. On what basis they go to court?
But therefore you would go to court, would you not?
Only investigating.
You would go to court. You would go to court and say that there is no reason why my... Sir, is the Congress... No, 1 second. Is the Congress being very generous? No, 1 second. Is the Congress being very generous? Let the ED attach all our properties. Then why aren't they going to court?
Okay, so let me again explain to you. When ED attaches, not like it's taking the property to Nagpur. The property
is this making sense, viewers? Is this making sense?
That's fine.
Okay, let's open this up further. Let me bring in Mr. Kurian. Mr. Kurian, is this making sense? The ED, without an FIR, without any cause, attaches a property. Would the person entrusted with the safekeeping of the property or the owner of the property not say, hey, what the hell? What are you doing? I'm moving court. I want my property back. Would you not do that, Mr. Kurian?
Well, I believe Sonia Gandhi ji and Rahul are confident there is no merit to this case.
I'm asking you a specific question. Why aren't they wanting their property back?
I'm sorry?
Why aren't they wanting their property back? It's a simple question. Panchkula property attached by the ED. If it's also unfair, the first thing they should do is move court and say, give us our property back. It doesn't belong to anybody else except for the Congress party, young Indians, and therefore, because it's a public interest, company, it belongs really to the public. You are fighting on the streets for the public but not interested in getting their property back. Why?
Well, the Congress has their legal team and I'm confident they will look.
What are they waiting for? The property was attached a long time back. What is the legal team doing? You see, viewers, on every point there is an issue. The ED investigations are taking place in consonance with the original scheduled offence, which are the IPC sections that I have just enumerated for you. It is a prerogative of the ED, therefore, to investigate further if there has been criminal conspiracy, and let me read out. If there has been a dishonest misappropriation of property, criminal breach of trust, cheating, criminal conspiracy, the case has not been quashed. An appropriate agency is now looking into this issue. What is wrong with that? The FIR is the original FIR on the basis of which the charges have been framed. The case has not been quashed. Well, viewers, we don't have answers, we have smiles. I will also smile. I will also smile. I will also smile, and I will say, for the moment, viewers, for the moment, the Congress party is looking extremely sheepish. Its leaders don't want to go out because it's raining. One of their leaders come out and say, not the public, we are here to fight for our netas, for our two leaders, the family, yes. These are the senior most leaders of the Congress party. Maybe even the party really knows that there is a liability now. And it's becoming difficult to take the liability along. Viewers, I leave it at this. We are moving on because we are talking about individuals who say one thing and do another. Or at least that's the allegation. Alt News founder Mohammed Zubair is back in the news. He has been accused of hurting religious sentiments in the garb of checking facts. For his efforts, Zubair faces a Delhi police investigation. You know about that case. But that hasn't stopped the man who calls himself a fact checker from allegedly courting controversy again. This time he's accused of spreading disaffection also. Remember, Zubair is not a free man. He has not been exonerated by the courts. He's just out on bail, and yet it appears he doesn't mind repeating the errors of his ways. At least that's the allegation. But that's all besides the point. Let me tell you why Mr. Zubair is back under the scanner again. Zubair in a recent interview claimed that while he was in Tihar jail, there were many Kashmiri children with him, inmates who were lodged alongside him in the jail after being allegedly booked for nothing more than posting commentary on social media. He said that the child inmates who shared his cell told him that there was no one speaking up for them. But Zubair has now been fact-checked by Tihar jail authorities. Times Now put the question to a high-ranking Tihar jail administrator who categorically denied Zubair's claims. I want to go straight across to Priyank Tripathi. For more on this, Priyank, you've been speaking to your sources in Tihar jail. What are they saying about the fact that Kashmiri children are being held there in a cell purportedly also occupied by Mr. Zubair, and that these children are there for nothing more than putting out a few misguided tweets on social media?
Rahul, one word from the senior officials that this is factually incorrect. So that is a clear word which clearly suggests that what Tihar jail officials have been talking about. I have asked them series of questions regarding that whether there are inmates who have been lodged inside the same jail number 4, were in fact lodged in jail number 4 where Mohammed Zubair was lodged. They said that there is no specific data which suggests that the claim which has been done by Mohammed Zubair could be true. I asked them that whether they have been inmates inside the Tihar jail who are from the valley in those 5 districts who are of the high importance for India's strategic location and for the peace and prosperity, and to be very precise for the day today being 5th of August. The answer was this is factually incorrect. We asked them that whether they have an ample amount of evidence which is available before you, because not even this interview, in one of the more interview just a few hours back, he also quoted to a news website said that while he was in the Tihar jail, he was given a treatment of a 5-star hotel. He was inside a room where he was given air condition. That information was also found to be false. So what it appears, Rahul, that after being inside the prison and after he must be thinking that he's losing out popularity, he's coming out and not even trying to defame the authorities, but also trying to question the Indian authorities on a very specific day when on social media platform there have been so many handles which have been tweeting regarding abrogation of Article 370 and what happened 3 years back on 5th of August. So that is a particular time period which Mr. Zubair has probably taken into account. On one side, officially, if you're asking, Rahul,
Zubair
is
officials spreading disaffection at a time, at a very sensitive time, at a time when India is celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the abrogation of Article 370, and that the allegation against him now from various people is that he is doing this to spread disaffection amongst ordinary Kashmiris, to suggest that the Indian state doesn't have their interest in mind. Okay, Priyank Tripathi, that's a very important point that you are making on the back of what you're being told by the authorities. I want to open this up. Abhijit Iyer Mitra is here with us. Let me ask him. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, the question is being asked insistently now of Mr. Zubair. Does he lie to spread hate? That's what I've been reading also on social media, for instance. A large number of people are saying that he lies to spread hate. Is this a fair assessment of his fact-checking?
Look, this man is a pathological fact-checker. Liar. In his case, it's the same thing. He considers lying to be fact-checking. Let me give you a brief history, and I'm not even going into an extensive history. If you remember, during lockdown, there were videos of certain religious leaders spitting on food. He actually fact-checked a thing saying it was false, claiming this is a traditional blessing. That was his explanation. So there was actually spitting happening, but he claimed that it was false because it was a traditional blessing. Second, if you remember the entire Nupur Sharma case, the poor lady quoted verbatim, and he claimed that this was blasphemy, outrage, whatnot. He does not even fact check. He uses his Twitter handle to fan flames, fan hate, and that is his primary calling. This is the 3rd time where he is lying outright and blatantly. And what exactly is he lying about here? Well, first was the fact that there were no kids in jail. Then, if there were kids in jail with him, then they were lodged in the same AC facility. Really? Now, I've spoken to several people in Tihar, they insist that there is no juvenile. No adult will ever be kept with a juvenile. There are some overground workers of terrorists. There are certain actual terrorists there in Tihar, but they are all way over age. Now, this man, he runs a spin operation. Let's not forget, Alt News lost its ICFN or IFCN, I don't know what it is, the Florida-based international fact-checker network. They refused to renew their certification of Alt News. What does that tell you? Imagine somebody who is an ideological compatriot of yours is refusing to renew your certification. So today, Alt News is a mere signatory to this. We can just go through his timeline and go through a whole case of places where he simply decontextualizes facts, pass them off as fact-checking. And all of this is to propagate a narrative of Muslims being persecuted, genocide in India, fascists, God knows what.
As we respond to Mr. Mitra making strong allegations here.
Well, Rahul Saab, before defending digital Satyavadi Mohammed Zubair, let me ask one simple question to Abhijit ji. Is there any article, section or clause in our Indian constitution which says that we need to necessarily believe in the government version as the gospel truth? The answer is no, because what we have seen in China is that in Ladakh, just recently, Wire has said that China has strengthened its claims on the Indian territory. So where does the truthfulness lie in the BJP government? Kindly enlighten me on that.
No, but one second. You're confusing issues, Mr. Hydri. He's not fact-checking. One second. Mr. Hydri, let me come in here. It's not as if Mr. No, one minute. There is some problem here. 1 second. Now, Mr. Hydri, it's not as if Zubair is fact-checking some government claim. He has made a claim which Tihar authorities are telling us on record are false.
So why do we need to believe necessarily in what Tihar authorities are saying?
Well, where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where is where is Mr. Zubair? Where is the proof that is being? 1 second. Yes.
Look, Rahul, there's a very simple test for it. Let's ask Zubair what these names were. Surely, I mean, if you've spent more than 2-3 hours chatting with these guys, opening up their hearts to them, he can tell you their names. He can check the records. He can check Tihar is 360-degree cameras in every cell.
He can file an RTI. Okay, Sushil Pandit, what do you make of this?
We are being ruled by the government, which even said
Sushil Pandit.
Should we believe that?
Rahul,
we know
Hydri says don't believe the government. Don't believe the government. Hydri says don't believe the government. Why should we believe the government? Okay,
exactly.
Go ahead.
Rahul, first of all, juveniles are never sent to jail where hardened criminals are kept. This is rudimentary. Never. There are separate facilities for juveniles. These are remand homes. These are other correctional facilities far away from those places where hardened criminals are kept. This is rudimentary. Even I know I have very little knowledge of jail manuals and such procedures. So I think this is deliberate. This is venom spewing. And I must here differ slightly with the rest of the panelists here. We are refusing to acknowledge that there is a war imposed upon us, and there are several these cog in the wheels who we think are operating in a otherwise peacetime atmosphere where normal criminal justice system must prevail.
Okay.
These elements are in fact most pernicious.
Most pernicious. Okay, Mr. Rashidi, respond.
Procedure.
Mr. Rashidi, please respond, sir. I think you're on mute, sir. You're on mute.
Times now so obsessed with Mr. Zubair. If he has done some tweet, why is Times now so obsessed with?
Answer the question, sir.
Because he had exposed the propaganda of Times Now, or he has done some tweet. If you're talking about the kids or juvenile people, you are giving.
I can't hear you. There's something wrong with your audio.
Let me complete, Rahul. I have been keeping mum since last 20 minutes. Let me complete. Now, if you're talking about juvenile and kids, is that Zubair never quoted about kids. A clarification in the interview that we are quoting here, a clarification has already been given by the publication. Here meant by youth. And
okay, are we having a problem with his audio, or is just me who can't hear him very clearly?
I can't hear.
Okay, your network seems to be dipping, sir. Rashidi Saab, your network seems to be dipping. Anyhow, viewers, I'm running out of time here. The fact is, there's another controversy against an individual who claims to be a fact checker. What he has said in an interview hasn't borne out. Viewers, I leave it to you to judge whether we should be going out there away from traditional media that is answerable to laws of this land and place faith in those who have no one to respond to. They're one-man companies without any antecedents. Think about that, viewers. I leave it at this.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು, ನೈತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ತೆಯ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನೆಹರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಋಣ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ 2 ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ಊಟ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಿಂಚತ್ತು ತ್ಯಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ತಯಾರಾಗದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಳು ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ.
He has openly confessed, he has openly admitted. In fact, taking this cognizance, I think our agencies should book a case, should really book a case against him and also make an enquiry, because he would be knowing who are all the beneficiaries.
Fact of the matter is, whether it is imported inflation, whether it is tinkering of GST for a longer period, the fact is that the burden is on the common man, and the common man frankly doesn't really care about what's happening in the United States or the UK or Russia or Ukraine. They're worried about their day-to-day living and per capita incomes where they are in India. The pressure is as much, magnified on common people in this country than they are abroad. And of course, you have social security systems which exist abroad, which don't exist in India. So I come back to asking you the same question. Is the government really being rather hard-hearted when it looks at these issues? After all, running a country of the kind that India is, with poor middle classes, lower middle classes forming the bulk of the population, do you think the government is doing enough to cushion the impact on these classes of people?
So let me say that as a policy maker, one has to make various trade-offs. So first of all, let me be clear that the government is fully cognizant of the spike in inflation. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen the measures we have taken, including the Reserve Bank tightening monetary policy. So clearly, the tightening of monetary policy is one response to bringing down inflation. But do remember that this is a trade-off, because if you do tighten monetary policy too fast, too quickly, yes, it will bring down inflation, but then it will slow down growth, it will slow down incomes and so on and so forth. So there is a balancing act that has to be done. Ultimately, what do we want to do? We want to increase as far as possible the trajectory of welfare and real incomes. And in that context, we have to trade off between growth and inflation. So the trade-off that we are making right now is, rather than tighten so harsh that growth slows down, we are tightening somewhat, but not so much that growth slows down too much. So keeping GDP growth going, create jobs, which is an important question, which I hope we will come to later on. These are issues that are also foremost in our mind. So given this balance we have done, I think the Reserve Bank's response is the correct one for this point in time.
Well, Sanjeev Sanyal, you know, governments are not necessarily only policy makers. They are also political entities, and you understand politics as much as anybody else. I want to ask you a simple, straightforward question that is...
I'm a policy... Wait, no. I cannot answer any questions on politics. I'm a policy maker. So if there are political questions, I'm afraid I will simply not be in a position to answer them.
Well, you know, that disclaimer taken on board, but I'm still asking you the question that when policy makers within the government do not have enough measures that solve problems of the common people of India, they end up being called insensitive and arrogant because they're winning elections anyway. They don't really need to bother about the common man. That is barricades broken, clashes with police and sit-ins in the midst of heavy police deployment. That's how the day went by in the national capital as Congress hit the streets clad in all black. Ladies and gentlemen, some dramatic scenes were witnessed in Delhi early this morning. Videos doing the rounds of Congress leaders being roughed up by the Delhi police and detained. Counter videos also seen where the Congress members of parliament were resisting action by the police. Which version is true? It's hard to say, and interestingly, it is also hard to say what the real reason of this protest really was. Now the Congress says they were out protesting the alleged failures of this government, price rise, inflation, unemployment, and the Bure Din for the Aam Aadmi is our agenda, said the Congress leaders. They were all promptly detained by the Delhi police because these protests had no permission. Congress alleged this was the center stifling their voices. Listen in.
इनको लगता है कि जितने भी इनके विपक्ष में जो कुछ कहता है उनको ये दबा सकते हैं, और इनको ये लगता है कि दबाने के बाद ऐसे अपनी फोर्स दिखाने के बाद हम चुपचाप से समझौता करके बस में बैठ जाएंगे इनके साथ। तो क्यों करें हम तो एक मकसद से है ना यहाँ। हमारा मकसद ये है कि हम इनके मंत्री कह रहे हैं इनको महंगाई नहीं दिखती, तो हम पीएम हाउस तक चल के महंगाई दिखाना चाहते हैं, गैस का सिलेंडर दिखाना चाहते हैं जो आज कोई खरीद नहीं सकता है। इतनी महंगाई है, चाहे गरीब हो चाहे मिडिल क्लास के हो, सब तरस रहे हैं, सब तड़प रहे हैं, और कोई कुछ ना बोले। उनके लिए महंगाई तो है नहीं, उन्होंने तो पूरी देश की संपत्ति, मोदी जी ने पूरे देश की संपत्ति अपने दोस्तों को दे दी है, उन पे कभी कोई कार्रवाई नहीं है। 2-4 लोग रईस हो गए हैं, उनके महल बने हुए हैं, लेकिन जो आम जनता है वो तरस रही है, तड़प रही है। ये ठीक है क्या? उनको महंगाई इसलिए नहीं दिखती, उनके लिए है ही नहीं, उनके पास पैसा ही पैसा है, जो चाहे जब खरीदे। सब्जी खरीद सकते हैं, दाल, आटा, चावल, सरसों का तेल, सब कुछ महंगा हो गया। गैस सिलेंडर किस लिए उठा के ले जा रहे हैं हम? क्योंकि नहीं दिख रही है ना महंगाई, देखिए।
Now, before they quoted this detention, Rahul Gandhi once again alleged that democracy was dead in India. Addressing a news conference right before the protest began, the Congress member of parliament spoke of alleged misuse of central agencies by the BJP. It's the onset of dictatorship, he alleged. The timing is interesting. Right before the price rise protest comes a misuse of agency attack, leaving us wondering what was the real motive of this Black Friday protest. Listen in to Rahul Gandhi.
How are you enjoying the onset of dictatorship in India? Are you enjoying it? लोकतंत्र की जो मौत हो रही है उसके बारे में क्या लगता है आपको? आज हिंदुस्तान में 4 लोगों की डिक्टेटरशिप है.
My job is to resist the idea of the RSS. That's my job. And I'm going to do it. The more I do it, the more I will be attacked. The harder I will be attacked. I am happy. Attack me. हाँ, हिटलर भी चुनाव जीत के आया था. हाँ, हिटलर भी चुनाव जीत जाता था. हिटलर चुनाव कैसे जीतता था? हिटलर चुनाव ऐसे जीतता था कि जर्मनी के पूरे इंस्टीट्यूशंस उसके हाथ में थे. मुझे पूरा का पूरा ढांचा दे दो, फिर मैं दिखाऊंगा आपको कैसे इलेक्शन जीता जाता है.
But why was the Congress out to save their leaders and the first family on a day no summons, no questioning or no raids were conducted? That's the question Union Home Minister Amit Shah asked while linking this protest to the Ram Janmabhoomi groundbreaking. In a pointed attack on the Congress party, Shah asked why they chose today to wear black when it's the day the foundation stone was laid by the grand Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Listen.
मैं तो समझ ही नहीं सकता विरोध का कार्यक्रम क्यों आज दिया गया है. और हर रोज जब विरोध के कार्यक्रम होते थे तो अपने अपने ड्रेस में होते थे. आज सभी के सभी लोग काले कपड़े पहनकर करें. कांग्रेस ने आज का दिन इसीलिए विरोध के लिए और विशेषकर काले कपड़ों में विरोध के लिए सिलेक्ट किया है कि वो एक सटल मैसेज देना चाहते हैं कि हम राम जन्मभूमि के शिलान्यास का विरोध करते हैं और अपनी तुष्टीकरण की नीति को वो आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं. और मैं तो यही कहना चाहूंगा कि तुष्टीकरण की नीति न देश के लिए अच्छी है न कांग्रेस के लिए अच्छी है.
The same sentiment was echoed by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath as well. Remember 2 years ago, Prime Minister Modi on this very day in a grand ceremony had laid the foundation stone of the Ram temple in Ayodhya. Listen in to why the BJP thinks the Congress protest today was meant to insult this very faith of Ram Bhakts.
इस दिवस पर भारत की आस्था को अपमानित करने वाला कांग्रेस के नेताओं का आचरण अत्यंत निंदनीय है. कांग्रेस पार्टी कई दिनों से आंदोलन कर रही है. अपने सामान्य कपड़ों में कर रही थी. सहमति असहमति हो सकती थी, लेकिन 5 अगस्त की तिथि को श्री राम जन्मभूमि मंदिर निर्माण कार्य के शुभारंभ दिवस के दिन, अयोध्या दिवस के दिन, माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय के सम्मान दिवस के दिन राम भक्तों को अपमानित करने वाला कांग्रेस का यह आचरण एक बार फिर जब जाहिर हुआ है. आज कांग्रेसियों ने काले कपड़े पहन करके जो प्रदर्शन किया है, यह श्री राम जन्मभूमि मंदिर निर्माण की तिथि के दिन यह राम भक्तों का अपमान है.
So the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight: save masters of Congress and insult Mandir. Is that the Congress's plan? That's the question and the debate on the other side. Black protest twist. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up.
Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, GVL Narasimha Rao, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Smita Prakash, Editor ANI, Suhail Seth, author and columnist, Meeta Chakrabarti, Congress supporter, Anurag Bhadoria, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. But my first question goes to Sanjay Jha, author and suspended leader of the Congress Party. Sanjay Jha, Black Friday. Is it the Congress guilty as charged because this is appeasement? You wanted to belittle the Ayodhya Divas, as Yogi Adityanath and Home Minister Amit Shah said, and the fact that while there was some talk that Priyanka Gandhi Vadra did about the price rise and inflation issue, she actually was more worried about ED action only against the Congress party, and that's exactly what Rahul Gandhi was worried about. So I want to ask you, what was this protest all about, and why a Black Friday protest in black clothes?
Well, Navika, first and foremost, the statements made by the Home Minister and the UP Chief Minister are so absurd, atrocious and preposterous that I don't want to even dignify it by making a response to that statement. But there is something very serious when such responsible and powerful politicians try and link this protest of the Congress party, where Rahul Gandhi and various other leaders actually said why they were protesting, to link it to Ayodhya. I mean, it just manifests in a great number of ways how desperate is the BJP to polarize India and use the wildest fictional imagination conceivable. I mean, I can only tell you that this tells you how intellectually bankrupt the BJP. But the larger question, I want to keep my answer very brief. I think there are very eminent panelists on the show, they can comment at leisure. My simple answer, and I speak not just as a member of the Congress party, suspended or otherwise, but as a citizen of our country, a great country, in my opinion, which is slipping down a rabbit hole where I think democratic and civil liberties are concerned. And I'm just going to keep it very short, Navika, by once again reiterating that the right to protest, whether it's Suhail, whether it's Pita, whether we do it on social media, on your show, or on the streets, is exactly what democracy is all about. And you cannot kind of, create a political culture in this country where anyone who says anything critical about whether it's a prime minister or the government is treated as an anti-national. You remember I was on the show with GVL on your show, I think, just a couple of programs ago. And GVL, before he finished his sentence, ended up calling the Congress anti-national. And you're talking about celebrating the 75th year of independence, and you're calling a party with leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Sardar Patel, Maulana Azad. You want a Congress book, Bharat, and then you want to celebrate an independence, and you want to insult the very party that fought for the freedom struggle. So, I can't comment on the BJP beyond a point. Let Mr. Rao respond and hand it over to the other panel.
Well, Sanjay Jha, considering we are so convinced about the democratic values of the Congress party doesn't even talk to us because we ask them tough questions. Now that's democracy for you, because there are some tough questions to be asked.
Answer that for you, Navika. I'm glad you raised this. Can I be honest with you? I have personally raised this issue in the Congress party when I was there, and I continue to mention this even today. I believe the biggest mistake that, and I'll say so on your program today, Rahul Gandhi has made a fundamental mistake by rubbishing media. I thought even today he made a good statement, but there was no need to kind of make a sarcastic observation that the media will do nothing. You're debating it today. I mean, I don't care the outcome of the conversation, but dialogue must happen. And I do feel that the Congress party is making a terrible tactical error in not engaging.
But then they are not Hitlers, but Modi is. GVL Narasimha Rao, different strokes for different folks. Respond to the charge sheet leveled against you by Mr. Sanjay Jha.
Not just Sanjay, but a volley of statements coming from various Congress leaders, including Rahul, Priyanka. I think they really shock you. Is it something, do they think this nation has a very limited collective memory? Who has destroyed institutions in this country? Did the Congress party not rule this country for close to 6 decades? Rahul Gandhi is now telling the country that if I have all the institutions, I will tell you how to win elections. Is he not mocking India's democracy? Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has been elected twice by the people of this country by a thumping majority. If you have lost your even leader of the opposition status, you cannot blame it on the BJP. I think you are insulting and you are mocking a democracy by making such statements. And who is desperate, Sanjay? You are saying BJP is desperate. The desperation of the Congress party is evident today. What they are protesting against is action against corruption. What they are protesting against is law enforcement agencies doing their job. It is the Congress which is desperate. What is this talk about price rise? GST. Is the hypocrisy of the Congress party not exposed? The governments of Rajasthan, governments of Chhattisgarh, they all were party to the decisions on GST, and they don't even object, they don't even dissent the decisions. They unilaterally and unanimously accept everything, and today you come out and cheaply protest on the streets. I think, is that not hypocrisy of the Congress party? And why black flags on a day, I think on August 5, which is remembered by the people of this country, millions and crores of Ram devotees in this country, as the day where this Bhavya, the foundation for the Bhavya Ram Mandir was laid. Certainly it's an issue of great emotion. Today is also a great festival in the entire South India, possibly in the entire country. Today is that Shravan Friday. Has the Congress party chosen this second Friday of the Shravan Mass and the day of Ayodhya Temple Foundation Day only to mock at Hindus and to appease minorities? Certainly this is a question that we will ask. There is nothing. The Congress party does this openly, does this appeasement openly, and you have a problem when we question this. I think the real thing, the story of today's protest, Navika, is the statement made by Mr. Salman Khurshid. I don't know if you can pull out this statement. I think it's a great revelation. I think I found that to be the most relevant statement that any Congress leader has made. He said during the protest, Salman Khurshid told the media, I'm reading from Times of India website, he said, I am here to save my Neta and my Neta saves me. This is Salman Khurshid on record. So Khurshid was asked about BJP's was asked why BJP was saying something, and then he replied like this. Why will I come
that
to
bite out? Yes. We'll play that sound bite for you, Salman Khurshid.
And my leader saves me.
परिवार को बचाने के लिए मैं क्यों आऊंगा? मैं अपने नेता को बचाने के लिए आऊंगा। मेरा नेता मुझे बचाता है। अगर इसको वो परिवार की परिभाषा बना देते हैं तो मुझे कोई उसमें कष्ट नहीं।
परिवार मुझे बताता है, मेरा नेता मुझे बचाता है, मैं उसको बचाऊंगा. So they are here for the परिवार. बीता चक्रवर्ती, this protest had nothing to do with price rise or problems of the common man, because those problems stand where they are. All this was agreed to by the Congress leaders in the GST council meeting. This is all a tamasha to save the Parivar from law enforcement and investigation agencies. Did you have any other doubt about it? Because Rahul Gandhi did not even mention GST, Aloo, Bengan, or even gas prices or petrol prices once in his press conference this morning. So, are you under any confusion what this protest was all about?
Democracy.
Well, I'm not under any confusion about what this protest is all about, because the protest was clearly about the price hike and unemployment and the implementation of GST on some food products, and it was covered by several Congress leaders during several press interactions. Now, what is really baffling is that when the BJP party does not have a political comeback, the only fallback option that they have is to drag religion into the discourse. It's very unfortunate. When we are discussing people issues, it's a fact that since last September, the inflation rate has been consistently high. Can anyone deny that? No. The inflation rate in the past few months has been well above 7% every consecutive month. Can anyone deny that? No. But the BJP government does not want to discuss any data that is not favorable for their discourse. Is it not a fact that the rural unemployment rate and the urban unemployment rate remains well above 7%? It's a fact that people are suffering because of unemployment, because of jobless growth, and because of high inflation rate. But as an opposition party, which is supposed to play a very important role in any healthy democracy, an opposition party is not within its rights to raise people's issues. What is the role of an opposition party in a democracy? Tell me that. Are they not supposed to raise issues that affect the common people of the nation on a day-to-day basis? Is that not the reason why they have been elected and sent to the parliament? They cannot raise those issues within the parliament. They cannot raise the Congress workers or the opposition party workers cannot raise those issues on the streets. Why were they denied permission today? In any healthy democracy, right to protest is a very basic right. They were not indulging in violence. They were doing peaceful demonstrations. They were doing peaceful protest. By denying the permission, by doing all the theatrics that they did, they actually made this a much bigger issue. And when they did not have a political comeback, which they could not come back with proper data, with proper political reasoning, they have to drag religion into the discourse. How unfortunate can this discourse become? That you do not have anything to say about the high prices, right. You do not have anything to say about the high unemployment, but you have to drag religion into the discourse then.
Suhail said the Congress as the opposition should be allowed free pass on the streets of Lutyens, Delhi, marching up to the President House, marching to the Prime Minister's house, not a protest site at Ram Leela, and they should have been given permission. Where do you stand on that? I think you're on mute.
Let me begin by commiserating my good friend Sanjay Jha. He and Rahul Gandhi are the last two Devdasas in India's political system. He because his party doesn't take him back, and Rahul Gandhi because the electorate doesn't vote for him enough. Sanjay is absolutely right. Sometimes a lot is said about an issue which may not have any meaning, but the fact is that it gets traction. I want to answer Meeta's question more specifically. You have every right to protest. Of course, that's a democratic right. But tell me, Meeta, when price rise is such a pressing issue, why should Kharge spend a lot of time in Rajya Sabha questioning why the fact he was called in by the Enforcement Directorate? More congressmen have protested over the fact that Mrs. Gandhi and Mr. Gandhi were respectively called in by the Enforcement Directorate rather than anything to do with national priorities. That's fact number one. Fact number two, it is quite apparent that inflation is not an India issue alone. Meeta, you're well versed with, geopolitics. Across the world, we are suffering from inflationary behavior, and we are seeing this rampantly. The fact is, India has been far better insulated because of its consumptive population. Ask any economist, including Kaushik Basu, who gets his economic lessons from taxi drivers. Number three, you have every right to protest, but that protest doesn't mean you compromise the security of the head of state and the head of government. You wanted to protest, you wore black clothes and you stood outside Parliament, fair enough. You wanted to protest, you had a press conference at 9:30 where you sadly compared the sitting Prime Minister of Democratic India to Adolf Hitler, fine. If that is the limit of your knowledge in terms of analogies qua history, that's your problem. But tell me, Meeta, as a responsible Indian, forget which party you may or may not belong to, we have every right to have a dignified conversation about issues in a state of deep harmony, not deep disharmony. What happened today? I mean, it was a protest for no rhyme or reason. You had Parliament in session. You chose, the Congress party chose to stand outside Parliament and protest. You've disrupted Parliament. Now you will say that BJP also did it, but two rights don't make a wrong. I mean, two wrongs don't make a right. The fact is, the opposition has no serious issues to discuss. They abuse the media, but they also use the media where they need to. What happened today is a sham of a protest. What happened today is a sham of price rise. You know what price rise would be? If I were Mrs. Gandhi, I would have given up my state-sponsored home dwellings. I would have then fought the National Herald case as it should be in courts of law. I would have submitted myself to investigative agencies. What is the form of entitlement? Ashok Gehlot, one of the Congress chief ministers, says the ED should go to Mrs. Gandhi's house. Next, you would want the Chief Justice Ramanna of India to set up a court in Mrs. Gandhi's house. That day, those days are over, Meeta. This is a country which has torn itself away from the past of entitlement, from the past of prowess and power. It's a country which is now different. We may not like that different country, we may not agree with it, but please don't believe that every protest that is snuffed because of security reasons is an attack on democracy. An attack on democracy is when you refuse to discuss issues in parliament and you want to discuss issues on the streets of Delhi. That's an attack on democracy. That's when you shame democracy. You shame democracy when you believe wearing black clothes will bring prices down. You shame democracy when you believe that 3 people can hold an entire nation to ransom. You shame democracy when you believe you're the entitled family. There's only one Gandhi we venerate, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. No, I'm sorry. Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. And you're as Bengali as I am, so we all respect the dignity of speech. I will end by just saying this. For with forms of government let fools contest, that which is governed best is best. With forms of protest, let's not involve equanimity. Let's not talk about equality. We have to protest in a dignified manner. And today's protest was more a protest about the family rather than about the nation. You know, Sanjay Jha very rightly said one thing. I wouldn't also not believe that, Rahul Gandhi would remember August 5 is the anniversary or the second anniversary of Ram Mandir. I don't think he has that kind of historical perspective. The fact is, and even Sanjay would agree, if we need to change the tempo of India's democracy, we need to change our behavior. It cannot be political egos, it has to be people's issues. Every time we make it political egos,
But that's what it's all boiled down to. Well, BJP did, blockade of parliament, so we should do it too, and we should do it more than them.
But that's my point, Navika. 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Absolutely.
2 wrongs don't make a right.
Smita Prakash, I want to ask you, Smita Prakash, on the day the price rise discussion took place in the Lok Sabha, the Congress walked out. Rahul Gandhi walked out. He did not want to debate the issues of price rise and inflation on the floor of the House. They just walked out. They did not make their speeches to put the finance minister on the mat. They did not raise the issues of people. They just walked out, easy way out, and then protests on the streets. This morning when he addressed the press conference, what did he say? He said, give me command of those institutions and I will win elections and show you Hitler also used to win elections. I want to ask, is this not an affront? Is this not something that puts down the people of India and the democracy? Is his word about the democracy in India an insult to the people who choose their government and who vote for parties? And if control of institutions is the only way, then how did Mamata Banerjee win Bengal? And why did Rahul Gandhi and his party lose elections in 2014? Is this just histrionics, bravado, or rhetoric that is leading the opposition and the Congress party's protest?
Navika, that press conference that you speak about, it was half an hour where he said that media kuch dikhayegi nahi, and it was carried live on all national channels, wall to wall, without editing. So, and then 8 hours of that, Congress protest ran on all national channels, and it ran without interruption, without editing, nothing. So then, to say that media is dead, democracy is dead, I don't understand it. 8 hours, after 8 hours, now debates on all channels. So where is the Congress saying that they don't get, I think this persecution complex has to end for the Congress. Sanjay rightfully says that, he's been saying this in the Congress internal meetings, he had been saying this. But then what happened in the evening was also interesting, with the BJP bringing out its ballistic missiles, if I may say, BrahMos and the Prithvi missile that they have, which is Amit Shah and Yogi Adityanath. So, we're not known as a country of spinners for no reason. While the Congress says that, today's protest was for price rise. That's their spin. The BJP says that it was black clothes to protest the Ram Janmabhoomi Shilanyas. The fact is that, you know, the Congress, which had these dramatic scenes today between, you know, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi tussling and tugging and jumping and wall-to-wall TV coverage. They are saying that, you know, Section 144, the police says Section 144 was broken. As far as the Congress is concerned, they don't care a fig now about permissions. They will violate parliament laws, they will violate Delhi police laws, whatever it is, because according to them, democracy is under threat. So it is not just their right to protest, it is also their duty to break all laws. So what we saw today is something which is going to be replicated now for the next couple of years, that they will break laws, and they will do this because this is going to get them television mileage, and they feel that is their right.
And then
what is significant, Navika, I think also is that AAP and
people of
TMC
India and their issues, अनुराग भदौरिया, क्या वो जरूरी है?
बहुत अच्छी आपने बात कही। आम आदमी की बात तो सोहेल सेठ ने भी नहीं की। इतनी लंबे लंबे डायलॉग माले एक बार भी बोल देते महंगाई बेरोजगारी देश में ज्यादा है, खाने पीने की वस्तुओं पे 5% जीएसटी लगा दी गई। एक बार बोल देते हैं शिव भक्तों के बारे में, कृष्ण भक्तों के बारे में, सावन का महीना है, आपने उन पे दूध दही छाछ पे जीएसटी लगा दी। क्या उन भक्तों का अपमान नहीं हुआ? ये लोग वो लोग हैं जो सिलेक्टिव बात करते हैं, ये अपनी बात करना चाहेंगे। मैं इनको एक कोट कर दूं, मध्य प्रदेश के हाई कोर्ट ने पन्ना कलेक्टर को, पन्ना के जो कलेक्टर उनको फटकार लगाई है और बोला है पन्ना कलेक्टर सत्ताधारी बीजेपी के क्या एजेंट बन गए हैं, जिन्होंने बीजेपी को उपाध्यक्ष को वहां जिता दिया। ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, मध्य प्रदेश के हाई कोर्ट ने बोला है बीजेपी को कि बीजेपी के जिताने पे उन्होंने पन्ना कलेक्टर को फटकार लगाई है। तो इसके मतलब भारतीय जनता पार्टी जिस तरह की राजनीति देश के अंदर में कर रही है, वो असली मुद्दों से ध्यान भटकाने की बात करती है। तरह तरह की बातें हो रही हैं, लेकिन महंगाई पे कोई चर्चा नहीं होना चाहता। बात पार्लियामेंट की पार्लियामेंट में महंगाई पे चर्चा हुई, मैंने आपकी बात मान ली। क्या एक दिन में महंगाई पे चर्चा होनी चाहिए? जिस देश में महंगाई इतनी ज्यादा हो गई हो, 80 करोड़ लोगों को भारतीय जनता पार्टी कह रही है कि मुझे फ्री में अनाज खिलाना पड़ रहा है, मतलब इतनी भुखमरी के कगार पे हम हैं कि हमें अनाज देना पड़ रहा है, वो अपने पैरों पे नहीं खड़े, उनके पास कोई रोजगार नहीं, इसलिए हमें उन्हें खिलाना पड़ रहा है। और वो पैसा कहां से आता है? वो तो जीएसटी से ही वसूल किया जाता है, जीएसटी का पैसा आता है। आप जनता का पैसा जनता में बांट के अपनी वाहवाही लूटना चाहते कि हम फ्री में खिला रहे हैं। एक तो फ्री में वर्ड आपको इस्तेमाल नहीं करना चाहिए था, दूसरा आप 80 करोड़ लोगों को अगर खाना की जरूरत है, इसके मतलब 80 करोड़ लोग इस देश में परेशान है। तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी को जनता के, जो आपने नाविका जी बोले, आम जनता की बात करनी चाहिए, जिसमें ना आपके पैनलिस्ट ने बात की, ना आपने मुद्दा तो उठाया, बट इस पर चर्चा नहीं होगी। एक दिन पार्लियामेंट में चर्चा हुई और सीतारमण जी इधर उधर की बातें करके अपना डाटा देके चलेगी। इस पे तो कम से कम 15-20 दिन तक चर्चा होनी चाहिए थी कि आखिर देश में आम आदमी ने
12 दिन जो विपक्ष ने जाया किए वो किसी गिनती में
भारतीय जनता पार्टी क्यों नहीं चर्चा कराया? भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने
वो किसी गिनती में नहीं है, नहीं और वॉकआउट हो जाए वो भी किसी गिनती में नहीं है। और आप शायद भूल रहे हैं कि 2 साल पैंडेमिक रहा है पूरी दुनिया में।
तो पार्लियामेंट
सोहेल सेठ से आपने सोहेल सेठ का नाम लिया था, चलिए फर्स्ट राइट ऑफ रिबटल सोहेल सेठ को, एंड देन आई एम कमिंग टू जीवीएल।
नहीं पार्लियामेंट
अनुराग ने बहुत ही सरल और सही बात की कि पार्लियामेंट में ये चर्चा 10-15 दिन तक चलनी चाहिए। मैं मानता हूं, मैं ये भी मानता हूं कि या अखिलेश जी या मुलायम सिंह जी दोनों ने इस टाइप का प्रदर्शन नहीं किया, क्योंकि वो जानते हैं कि पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी की सरलता क्या है। नंबर 3, आप मेरे को बोलिए अनुराग जी, जब प्राइस राइज इतना इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है, तो इन्होंने क्या डिस्कस किया? ये सिर्फ ईडी के बारे में डिस्कस कर रहे थे, ये सिर्फ एक परिवार को बचाने की बात कर रहे थे। तो मैं आपसे सही सहमत हूं, हां आप फिर ये डिस्कस करिए, पर मैं आपको एक बात बोलूं, परिवार के सामने महंगाई कम है, परिवार के सामने महंगाई का कोई अहम नहीं है। और जब महंगाई का कोई अहम नहीं है तो आप उसको डिस्कस क्यों करेंगे? आप पार्लियामेंट को ठप करेंगे, आप पार्लियामेंट को बंद करने की चेष्टा करेंगे। आप पार्लियामेंट, एक मिनट अनुराग जी, मैंने आपको नहीं इंटरप्ट किया, मैं तो हर वक्त प्रॉपर्ली बिहेव करता हूं। अब मेरी लास्ट जो बात है, आपने सही कहा कि पार्लियामेंट के अंदर यह चर्चा होनी चाहिए। उन्होंने क्या कहा? हम लोग पार्लियामेंट के बाहर करेंगे। अरे भाई, अगर आप पार्लियामेंट के बाहर करेंगे तो आप कौन सी डेमोक्रेसी की बात कर रहे हैं? आप कौन से संसद की बात कर रहे हैं? आप कौन सी चर्चा की बात कर रहे हैं? तो मेरा यही कहना है, अगर हम देश में कोई डिस्कशन चाहते हैं अगर देश में हम कोई मुद्दे को उठाना चाहते हैं तो हम कहां उठाएं? रास्तों पे उठाएं या संसद में? क्योंकि अगर आपको रास्तों पे ये उठाना है फिर आप संसद जाइए नहीं। हम लोग क्यों आपको पैसा दे रहे हैं? क्यों आपको एमपी फीस मिल रही है? आप क्यों इतना इलेक्शन पे खर्चा कर रहे हो? आप इसलिए कर रहे हो क्योंकि आप समझते हो कि संसद ही डेमोक्रेसी की अहम एक
और ये बात सोहेल सेठ ने पहले भी कही थी कि चर्चा अंदर होनी चाहिए, सड़कों पर नहीं। तो आप समझते हैं राहुल गांधी गलत थे?
नहीं, मैं सोहेल जी
कांग्रेस पार्टी गलत थी?
मैं अपनी बात कह लूं, सोहेल जी की बात से सहमत हूं, लेकिन देश में पार्लियामेंट को ऑर्डर में लाने की जिम्मेदारी किसकी है? सरकार की। तो सरकार अपने नहीं, सरकार सारी जिम्मेदारी से भाग जाएगी। पार्लियामेंट चलाने की जिम्मेदारी सरकार की है सोहेल जी। सरकार अपनी जिम्मेदारी से नहीं भाग सकती ये बोल के कि नहीं पार्लियामेंट नहीं चलेगा। चलवाओ।
आपने मेरे को अपने घर पे बुलाया भोजन के लिए। अनुराग बडोरिया ने सोहेल सेठ को बुलाया कि भाई आओ मेरे घर पे भोजन कर लो। मैं आपके घर पे आता हूं, फिर मैं बोलता हूं यार तुम्हारा खाना तो बहुत ही बदतर है, मैं बाहर जाके ना समोसा चाट खा लूंगा। तौहीन नहीं हुई आपकी? हुई। अब आपने जो कहा कि संसद में जो डिस्कशन होनी चाहिए, वो संसद में तो कोई डिस्कशन करना नहीं चाहता। आप सही कहते हैं, रूलिंग पार्टी की जिम्मेदारी है संसद को चलाना। बिल्कुल। पर अगर कोई चलाने नहीं दे
ऐसा
तो
नहीं
रूलिंग
होता
पार्टी क्या करेगी?
ऐसा नहीं होता है, सरकार की जिम्मेदारी होती है।
GVL Narasimha Rao, you know, everybody is saying, is the BJP giving it a new twist? Is the Congress party, you know, is it only interested in the ED? My question to you is, do you really believe that inflation is an issue for people in this country? Yes or no? And if it is, what are the steps that will be taken? Can we have a discussion on that instead of talking about every sundry issue, but what is troubling the Aam Aadmi?
Navika ji, certainly management of inflation, ensuring that the inflation remains within the tolerance limit set by the RBI, this is a top priority for the government. And Honorable Finance Minister on the floor of Parliament, I was present in the Rajya Sabha, so I can say from Rajya Sabha, she said it's certainly an issue that we are addressing. It's an issue of concern. But we are doing, it's also a fact that we are doing far better compared to every other major economy and every country around the region.
Navika.
Certainly that cannot be ignored. And we have to look at the performance of Modi ji's government and Atal ji's government and compare it with the Congress government. We come out in flying colors. There was double-digit inflation for most part of the second UPA era. Why would the Congress, did it not hurt the poor then? We are certainly cognizant of it today, but then we are not blaming it on the opposition. But the opposition also has a duty to perform. You are in government. The Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, there are opposition governments. Why are they not controlling? Why are they not reducing the VAT prices, VAT taxes? The government, central government has reduced excise duty twice.
True,
so
Sanjay Jha.
Energy being an important component
what
of
is
the
the Congress
inflation, why
done?
doesn't the
What is the
opposition take
Congress's
responsibility?
contribution to reducing inflation other than sitting on the streets and challenging Delhi police? The question is, you have not reduced duties on petrol, diesel because you don't want to do it. You want to only blame the center. Your parties, your finance ministers of states, 2 states that you have, were sitting in the GST council. They acceded to these decisions over there. They didn't say anything. They didn't even do a press conference. They didn't even raise a voice when this was decided within the GST council. Everything is post facto. And let me tell you some numbers. Rice increased in the 5 years, last 5 years of UPA 2 by 64%. It's increased in the last 5 years of Modi government by 20%. Tomato prices 242% up in Manmohan Singh's last 5 years, 11% up now. 90% increase in potato prices then, 21% increase now. 71% increase in milk prices then, 24% now. So both the Modi government have had an issue with inflation, but their problem is less than the problem that you gave the Aam Aadmi. So why is this hypocrisy about you being the only party that worries about Aam Aadmi? Number one. And number two, seriously? With the Ashok Gehlot sitting next to Rahul Gandhi, an elected, popularly elected chief minister, he says, institutions agar aapke paas ho to election jeetna aasan hai. Seriously, Sanjay Jha?
Well, Navika, since you have raised many points, let me respond to all of them very, very quickly. It is absolutely astonishing that GVL Rao, and I'm surprised even Suhail, seem to be saying that relatively India is better off in inflation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that you can't compare the inflation in India, which has over 350 million people living below the poverty line. Mr. Rao, he should know that roughly 230 million people went into poverty during the pandemic, and they haven't come up. The neo middle class has vanished, Mr. Rao. India today is struggling on poverty, forget growth. And you're talking about GDP growth on a very low base. I mean, stop kind of fooling the people of India on fake news. Economics, unfortunately, is not subject to rhetoric. And let me remind him, since he's rubbishing the Congress, during the 10 years of the Congress, you had a GDP growth rate of 8%.
1 minute, you're talking
70 million people above the poverty line. What are you talking about? The more critical point, Navika, is this, that at the end of the day, we need to realize that the opposition party must have a right to dissent. Why does a party in power stop it? Because they don't want the people to know the truth, and that's how democracy is important. Price rise is a issue. Can Mr. Rao deny that we have record unemployment in the country? The demographic dividend story of India is dead. It's over. India will soon have an aging population. Who's responsible?
One minute.
For power. And by the way, as far as crude oil is concerned, it is a government of India that imports crude. You can't blame the state government for having its excise duty or its state tax at some level. It is the central government that is responsible for monetary and fiscal policy.
Navika, I must respond because he named me.
Oil prices. He should know his economics. But as
I must respond because he named me.
BJP, if somebody knows economics, then I'm a Bharatnatyam dancer.
Well then, you should also remember that the constitution that you hold so dear to your heart, the same constitution was, the amendments were torn. Your government used to pass and Rahul Gandhi used to tear. And you know what else they've done. But Suhail said.
I don't know if Sanjay Jha is a Bharatnatyam dancer, because if he were, he'd make a very, very good one at that. Having said that, now let me give you a lesson in economics since you asked for it. Actually, you asked GVL Rao, but I'll give it to you. It is no one's case that India's inflation must be seen in perspective in isolation. I have said it repeatedly that all nations measure their inflation and their GDP qua each other. Otherwise, there's no point measuring GDP. I can say Sanjay Jha is the best thing after sliced bread, but I have to tell you it's sardo or multigrain, number one. Number two, it is no one's point that dissent should be banned. I said in my opening remarks and I'm repeating, dissent must be there. Disagreement must be there. Disagree without being disagreeable. What we are seeing in today's India is the advent of being disagreeable. Number four, and I said that to my good friend Anurag, please protest as much as you can in a place where change can happen, where laws can be altered. And that place is Parliament when I last checked. If you want to take everything outside Parliament and make it extraneous, you will never find democracy. Number five, as Smita Prakash said, Rahul Gandhi represents the Congress, which represents the grand old party. To then say that if I had institutions under my control, I would win elections, you're doing two things. You're demeaning the ability of your party to win elections, because it seems as if you could hijack or borrow or, subvert the system. Number two, what kind of message are you sending out as a so-called youth leader to people in India? Did Modi sneak in through the back door? And I'm no votary of Modi or Amit Shah or anyone. I couldn't be bothered. He won an election. Respect that. The only way to counter him is to win an election. Then you say, I will control the institutions. Are you decrying the Supreme Court of India? Are you decrying the Election Commission of India? Are you decrying Parliament? Are you decrying the forces? Because these are institutions.
Meeta Chakrabarti, can you deny 30 seconds before I get GVL Narasimha Rao?
Can I quickly come back? Yeah. So firstly, we have been talking about dignity, protesting in a dignified manner, and I completely agree that there should be dignified protests and dignified dialogues. However, where was the dignity when Mrs. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra was getting dragged by the police force today? And we have seen many such scenes. It's just not about Mrs. Priyanka Gandhi. Secondly, we keep talking every time that there is a voice against the central ruling dispensation, there is always a reference that Mr. Modi had won 2 elections. Of course he had. Congress had won several elections in independent India as well. However, let me remind you that even in 2019, in the best ever performance, Mr. Modi's NDA secured 39% of people's mandate and 61% vote went to opposition parties,
the same opposition parties, Meeta Chakrabarti, which are not willing to sit with you and do business as a joint front. How much did Congress get? Smita Prakash, is this mathematics where you just add them all together and make it one versus the other? Is Mamata Banerjee willing to sit next to Congress party for a joint front? Is KCR willing to sit with the Congress party? Is Akhilesh Yadav willing to sit with Congress party? What is the Congress talking about in terms of the 61% of opposition vote? Smita.
I have no idea where this mathematics is coming across, because it just doesn't add up. Even for the vice president polls, they can't get together for a woman candidate. So I don't know where this is coming about. Repeatedly they've been talking about what can the Congress do. After all, we are in the opposition. The fact is that the Congress party, when in UPA, at that time they had the National Advisory Committee, right? That NAC, it made all the policies and programs. They were the guidelines which the Manmohan Singh government had to follow. This was when they were the ruling party. Now they are in the opposition, reconstituted, and come up with ideas as to how you will tackle unemployment, how you will tackle inflation, or whatever it is that you think is hitting the people. Instead, all you can do is these bombastic statements that democracy is under threat, Hitler Raj aa gaya hai. These are not going to resonate at all with the people. The people want to know, how can you change our lives? They, whether you believe it or not, think that Modi and Shah and Hemanta Biswa and the others can bring about change in their lives, but you are not able to convince even at state level that you can bring about a change. So if you want to prove that, bring about your economics, bring about your papers. If parliament is not the place, then TV debates mein to le aao, bring about, you have Mr. Baduria who's talking about it, but you won't have the Congress coming up with actual statements as to how they would have tackled it had they been in government. There is no shadow cabinet. As far back as Rahul Gandhi's cabinet, when Rahul Gandhi was in the opposition, Rajiv Gandhi was in the opposition, he used to have a shadow cabinet.
Sanjay Jha, do you have any constructive suggestions, or is it just on the streets that you want to protest and say democracy is dead?
Well, Navika, let me tell you, consultations, constructive dialogue, this is exactly what should be happening. But as everybody knows, in any democracy, Navika, the government has to actually encourage people or political parties to have a conversation. I remember once upon a time that I believe we were political opponents. GVL's party and my party should be seen as political opponents, a contest of ideas in the electoral place. But what we have become in the perception of the people that I talk to, that are political parties each other's enemies? Are we talking about a ruthless destruction of the other? The Congress's leadership.
All right, you have a breakdown in communication with the treasury benches, with the government. At least give an alternative thought that people of India can vote for you when elections come. Do you even have that plan of action? And is this the reason why you lose elections? Because you don't have an alternative plan. Sanjay Jha, that is the challenge that the Congress is facing. And GVL Narasimha Rao, is the Congress party, decrying the fact that there is no communication or atmosphere for any dialogue with the government? Or is the Congress party really bereft of an alternate plan or constructive suggestions?
Navika, the whole country has realized that post 2014, the Congress has not come to terms with reality. It's declining performance in elections, and they simply want to believe to be the monarchy in this country. Let me refute some very bogus statements that were made on this program. One bogus statement is, oh, majority vote you did not get, so people are against you. The Congress party, except in 1984 Lok Sabha election, never got majority vote. In the very first general election in 1951 and 52, only 46% people in the country voted, and Jawaharlal Nehru led Congress got only 45% vote. In 1951-52, after claiming to be the sole party that brought independence, but they got 364 seats. So what are you complaining against? You never got more than 50% vote. Most of the time the Congress got only 40% and won elections. And regarding Sanjay's fallacious claims, I think it's who is saying that India's poor? Prime Minister Modi ji has provided a safety net to the poor throughout the corona period. 20 crore women were given 30,000 crores directly into their bank accounts. 12 crore farmers were given substantial amount of cash assistance. We did not follow Rahul Gandhi's great idea of giving handouts to everybody, because that would have landed India into a big mess like most of the US and European countries have faced. Rahul economics would have bombed. Thank God nobody is here to take Rahul Gandhi's advice and his economist advice. Prime Minister Modi ji's ideas and economic policies have bailed out India's economy, have ensured that we revitalize and we become the largest growing economy once again. What do we
Well, the fact of the matter, Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao, it is true that we've had a terrible last 2 years with the pandemic, and the pandemic still continues. It's not as if we've been able to put it behind us. These have been challenging times, not just for us in India, but for people across the world. Having said that, there are a few serious challenges that people in this country are facing. Tax burdens, unemployment, inflation, these are real issues. While we've done well in managing the pandemic with the vaccination and the booster doses that we've done, and we've done it at a scale that the countries abroad in the West and developed countries are looking at India's example. So we have some reason to pat our backs. But do we have a problem as far as inflation and unemployment is concerned? Of course we do. So can we please stop the political point scoring and get down to the drawing board to look at solutions to the problems of people, and just taxing them again and again and again cannot be a solution. The government will have to come up with a blueprint to put India out of its misery, because most Indians are suffering under inflation. However, brownie points between political parties continue unabated, and that really gives no relief to the people of India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the Newshour tonight. Good night, be safe. I'll see you on Monday, same time, same channel, and the same show, the Newshour at 9.
The Newshour at 9 will be right back after the break. Newshour at 9.
UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath today reviewed development projects and law and order situation in Varanasi. He also visited Kashi Vishwanath and Kal Bhairav temples to inspect arrangements made for devotees arriving in the month of Shravan. Telangana Rashtra Samiti has decided to support the combined opposition candidate Margaret Alva in the election for Vice President's post. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal announces distribution of Tirangas in Delhi, 25 lakh Tirangas to be handed out across the national capital. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee chaired an important meeting of TMC MPs in Delhi today. The meeting was chaired to discuss plan for the upcoming 2024 elections. Trouble mounts for TMC leader. CBI summons TMC Birbhum President Anubrata Mondal on the 8th of August in cattle smuggling case. India has successfully test-fired the indigenously developed laser-guided anti-tank missiles by DRDO. The test fire took place at a military installation in Maharashtra's Ahmednagar. The RBI has increased repo rate by 50 basis points. It is now up to 5.4%, back to the pre-pandemic levels, and the highest since 2019. This is the third increase this year.
You were watching the Newshour at 9. Stay tuned.
The most pressing issue, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು, ನೈತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ತೆಯ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನೆಹರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಋಣ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ 2 ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ಊಟ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕಿಂಚತ್ತು ತ್ಯಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ತಯಾರಾಗದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಳು ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ.
He has openly confessed, he has openly admitted. In fact, taking this cognizance, I think our agent.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Newshour Agenda, India's most loved primetime show at 10.
I'm Padmaja Joshi. The Congress today staged a protest against unemployment and price rise across the country. Leading the charge for the party were Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Today morning, all MPs and senior leaders of the Congress turned up in black as decided and marched towards Rashtrapati Bhavan and the Prime Minister's residence in Delhi. Inside and outside Parliament, in Delhi or anywhere else in the country, all the leaders wore black as a mark of their protest. But by evening came a twist. The BJP linked this protest in black to the anniversary of the Ram Mandir Bhumi Pujan and claimed that the party had deliberately worn black today on an auspicious day in order to mock and hurt practicing Hindus.
कांग्रेस ने आज का दिन इसीलिए विरोध के लिए और विशेषकर काले कपड़ों में विरोध के लिए सिलेक्ट किया है कि वो एक सटल मैसेज देना चाहते हैं कि हम राम जन्मभूमि के शिलान्यास का विरोध करते हैं और अपनी तुष्टीकरण की नीति को वो आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं। और मैं तो यही कहना चाहूंगा कि तुष्टीकरण की नीति न देश के लिए अच्छी है न कांग्रेस के लिए अच्छी है।
5 अगस्त की तिथि को श्री राम जन्मभूमि मंदिर निर्माण कार्य के शुभारंभ दिवस के दिन, अयोध्या दिवस के दिन, माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय के सम्मान दिवस के दिन राम भक्तों को अपमानित करने वाला कांग्रेस का यह आचरण एक बार फिर जग जाहिर हुआ है।
The most dramatic face-off of the day was between the Delhi police and Priyanka Vadra when the cops stopped her from her Mission PM house gherao. The Congress then alleged large-scale manhandling and ill-treatment of the leaders in order to muzzle the voice of dissent.
इनको लगता है कि जितने भी इनके विपक्ष में जो कुछ कहता है उनको ये दबा सकते हैं और इनको ये लगता है कि दबाने के बाद ऐसे अपनी फोर्स दिखाने के बाद हम चुपचाप से समझौता करके बस में बैठ जाएंगे इनके साथ। तो क्यों करें हम तो एक मकसद से है ना यहाँ। हमारा मकसद यह है कि हम इनके मंत्री कह रहे हैं इनको महंगाई नहीं दिखती तो हम पीएम हाउस तक चल के महंगाई दिखाना चाहते हैं। चाहे गरीब हो चाहे मिडिल क्लास के हो, सब तरस रहे हैं, सब तड़प रहे हैं और कोई कुछ ना बोले।
Which is why by evening, when the BJP had linked the black clothes protest to the Ram Mandir, the Congress called it nothing more than a sign of nervousness and evidence that the protest had finally hit home. It is an issue that affects each and every person. It hits people's pockets on a daily basis, and which is why the BJP, the Congress said, is playing now on the sentiments of people and trying to give it a religious polarizing twist. So is the temple twist to the Congress's protest an attempt to try and put the party on the back foot, to try and reach out to the emotional side of the entire issue by linking it to the Ram Mandir? Is there any real truth to this even, or just a conspiracy theory? And what really is the target? Because if we just look at the protest itself, what was the target of the protest? Price rise or Parivar?
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1, on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining us now on the debate, Dr. Suman Siraman, political analyst, Ehtasham Hashmi, lawyer, Gokul Chandran, political analyst, Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. But right at the beginning, I want to go to former Union Minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, right at the top. By evening, we were told, Ravi Shankar ji, that the Congress wore black clothes deliberately because today is the anniversary of the Bhumi Pujan. Doesn't that seem like a strange twist to what was essentially a price rise protest?
I think in the morning I responded on behalf of the party to the press of Rahul Gandhi ji. I mentioned these things. I also meant today the day of the revocation of Article 370. Another milestone day. What kind of message is being given? Let's be very clear about some facts. Congress as an opposition party has got every right to have opposition dharna or for arrest. But was it that simple? 2 days ago we had a big debate in the Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha. Did Rahul Gandhi participate? Congress members showered abuses on us. Free and frank discussion showed on your channel. How did he say today that our voice is being shut? Number one. Number two, how can Rahul Gandhi humiliate India's democracy? There is no democracy in India. पद्मजा, अगर देश के लोग उनको वोट नहीं देते हैं, 14 में हार गए, 19 में हार गए, बहन ने कहा बहन हूं लड़ सकती हूं यूपी में, वहां 2 सीट मिली, तो हम क्या करें? Then you will blame the election commission? You are on bail. You are quashing application of 420 and 120B in scandalous corruption of National Herald, appropriation of 5,000 crores, was rejected by the court. You will shower an indirect attack on the judiciary. During the COVID, did you show yourself vaccinated to tell the country that you are with the people, the scientists who have brought great laurels to India? This is Rahul Gandhi's thing. You will humiliate the democracy of India. You will defame the people of India. Indian democracy is being talked globally. And therefore, I can only say what I said in the morning. बहाना है महंगाई, महंगाई बहाना है, असल नियत ईडी को डराना, धमकाना और परिवार को बचाना है. Just Padmaja, tell me one thing. Is there any democracy in the Congress party? Do they have elections in the party? Does the leadership think beyond the family? The sister and brother and the mother? What moral right they have to talk of democracy?
But Ravishankar ji, here is the curious part. सुबह जब आपने इस पूरे प्रोटेस्ट के बारे में बोला था, you said that ईडी निशाना है, ईडी को डराना है, तो शाम को ये भूमि पूजन वाला एंगल किधर से आ गया? क्योंकि now the Congress is saying that ultimately when the BJP is on the back foot, the first weapon of choice is polarize. The Ram Mandir is an emotional issue. The moment you bring in the Ram Mandir, bread and butter issues will suddenly get sidetracked. Are you trying to take the pressure off from real bread and butter issues like Mengai?
Let me tell you very clearly, we are not afraid of the dharna of the Congress party. Let them do so. People of India trust the leadership of Narendra Modi ji. They are repeatedly giving mandate to the people, to the BJP and the NDA, and they will do so again in 24 in Gujarat and other places. That is not the issue. The issue is very simple. Why did you choose 5th? You could have gone on 6th also. If the Congress party is unaware of the significance of these 2 days, are we at all not entitled to tell it to the people of the country? Now coming to the price rise, I must briefly allow me to share on your channel, Padmaja. Is there 10% inflation in America or not? England or not? 9%, same is Italy, same is France. The global institutions have said India is handling it very well. 200 crore vaccination, 80 crore people being given free food, we reduced the excise, and we have done so many things. India has been the biggest recipient of FDI during these COVID periods. Now in this light, we have never said that there is no problem. But the problem is because of factors beyond our control. And we are the best to navigate and control it. What Rajasthan is doing, what Chhattisgarh is doing, the Chhattisgarh is not even allowing to construction of housing for the poor people. We have to say that we will have to stop it. Therefore, let us not go on that. The point is, under Narendra Modi regime, corruption has been stopped. Middlemen have no entry in the corridors of power. This pains. There is no cut in defense deals. This pains Congress party. But if Congress party and the family thinks they are beyond the realm of law, sorry Rahul Gandhi, you will have to be accountable. You have to face the might of law. That's all.
When you talk about the choice of date as the 5th of August, what possibly could the Congress gain by trying to belittle the Ram Mandir Bhumi Pujan? They welcomed it. They said, Ram Mandir ka hum welcome karte hain. Mr. Gandhi himself says, I am a Shiv Bhakt. Priyanka ji herself goes, she went to Kumbh, she's been to Prayagraj, Ayodhya they go and worship as well, Congress leaders, if not the Gandhis in particular. Why would they choose something which would politically be suicidal? What could they possibly gain by ridiculing?
The reply is very simple. Symbolism under compulsion of vote bank politics is one thing.
Respecting Sanatan Dharma and Hindu faith by way of commitment is entirely different. Did you hear Rahul Gandhi's speech today? How he said that ugly forces are raising their heads? I don't want to digress the debate today, but Rahul Gandhi's views are too well known. But since you have asked me a question, let me put it straight to you. Have you heard a word of condemnation from Rahul Gandhi or Sar Tan Se Juda? I mean it. I mean it. It was the time for Mr. Rahul Gandhi and Sonia ji to openly come out that we don't appreciate this kind of radical approach and violence against innocent people. Mr. Gehlot had to take action after he was castigated. Do I have to say it something more? What happened in Triple Talaq? They opposed it, a lady leader like Sonia Gandhi. Therefore, let us not talk about that. Today is not the issue. And have they been consistently following Ram Janmabhoomi? Rahul Gandhi today talked of democracy. What happened in emergency? Committed judiciary, JP Morarji Bhai Bajpayee ji getting arrested, RSS being banned. Today also again castigating RSS, a great nationalist organization. What is all this? What kind of signals is being given? Today RSS is irrelevant in a price rise debate. Democracy is being castigated, RSS is being castigated, all the institutions, and above all, she is brazen comment, give me all these institutions, I will win the elections. This is the biggest insult to Indian democracy which Rahul Gandhi has caused today. फिर कहेंगे पद्मजा, आपको देश के लोग वोट नहीं देते हैं, अब तो सब इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वोटिंग मशीन से होता है, तो फिर हम क्या करें आपका?
All right, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, really appreciate you joining us and speaking to us. Interesting that the BJP now saying that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party is challenging not just the symbols of our democracy, but in particular symbols of one community and religion as well. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Let me open this up to our panel. Joining us now, Sanju Verma. I'll again ask the first question to you. Is your party on the back foot?
Padmaja, first and foremost, that was a very illuminating interview. I just want to, without beating around the bush, say very clearly to you, should price rise, unemployment, state of the economy be debated in the parliament? Yes. Does the opposition have the right to carry out protests in a democracy? Of course, yes. They can wear black bandanas and black t-shirts and carry out protests. But, if there is a section 144 imposed, you do not have the right to break police barricades. If in February 2016, May 2017 and September 2018, the Supreme Court, the Patiala House Court and the Delhi High Court have consecutively refused to quash proceedings against accused number 1 and accused number 2, Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi in the National Herald case, and you use those judgments to belittle the judiciary, you belittle the electoral process by saying, मेरे पास यदि सारा ढांचा हो, यदि सब इंस्टीट्यूशंस मेरे पास हो, तो मैं भी चुनाव जीत सकता हूं. I think that was a very telling statement by Rahul Gandhi on the scant regard he has for democratic institutions.
Okay, so let's just take this one by one. First, let's talk about the issue that the Congress stated is their purpose today, which was price rise. This is an issue you cannot wish away. There is price rise. There is inflation. The repo rate was also raised today. Is that the reason why you are trying to blame the protests on National Herald investigation, saying that they are insulting Hindus, that they deliberately did it to mock Ram Mandir, because the protests are hitting home? Let's face it, protests across the country and people are looking at it and wondering, boss, महंगाई तो है.
Okay, Padmaja, a question पूछा है तो महंगाई है, तो मैं इस बात से इनकार नहीं कर रही हूँ, but we have to look at everything in the right perspective. I will not even give the argument that US has inflation of 9.1%, UK of 8.6%, Sri Lanka of 40%. I'm not going to go that road and make odious comparisons. My simple argument is this, that we have had two black swan events. In 2019-20, we had a global pandemic for the first time in over 100 years. In 2022, we barely started recovering from the pandemic, and I'm talking of the entire globe. We had the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I'm not even, no, Padmaja, let me take 20 seconds. Now the point is there is supply disruption when you have two black swan events, you know, in a row. But, I want to tell one thing to the audience of Padmaja Joshi. The last 8-year average of retail inflation under the Modi government is 4.9%. Under Manmohan Singh, it was 8.4%. Under Narasimha Rao, it was 10.49%. Under Indira Gandhi, it was again 8.4%.
That might be the case, but see, here's the thing. All this while you kept saying there is no opposition in the country. Today on an emotive issue, the opposition of the country is on the roads and they are visible. I'm again going to ask you, is this putting you on the back foot? There is a visible opposition there, even if for a day.
Padmaja, you know, I think you asked me the toughest questions and I have no qualms about that. You know, I think the best example of political legitimacy in a democracy is finally at the hustings. And the election issues, you know, if you keep them aside, I'm not even talking of Lok Sabha 2014 or Lok Sabha 2019, come on. We won 4 out of 5 states that went into polls a couple of months back with a strike rate of 80%. Congress party won 2 seats in Uttar Pradesh and you think they have political legitimacy? Are you kidding me?
Well, with the same logic, then Mamata Banerjee is a much better chief minister than the BJP because she got 2 back-to-back mandates in West Bengal.
And she lost Tripura. She lost Goa.
She wasn't in Tripura, but anyway, let's... Okay.
Hum to Goa jeetenge.
Okay, let's...
Hum to Goa zarur jeetenge.
Okay, let's move on from there. She had no presence in Tripura. She was trying to make inroads, but anyway, let's move on. Ehtesham Hashmi, is there an effort to try and mock Hindu faith? It's a very serious charge, and let me read to you what Yogi Adityanath said. He is saying that Congress has been protesting normally in their normal clothes all of these days. Why did they choose today, the 5th of August, to wear black and come out on the streets? Was this meant to target a community? Ehtesham Hashmi.
Actually, these days, few BJP leaders and few BJP ministers are behaving like a kindergarten kid. They don't know the significance of black color in Hindu religion. Have you seen the Lord Krishna? Have you seen the deity of Lord Krishna? It was in black color. Have you seen the deity of Bhagwan Shani? The largest statue of Bhagwan Shani we have seen, it is in black stone, and black symbolize the power, the authority, and when we went to go to fight with enemies, then we should wear black. So black color is the form of power, and I have seen Ma Durga Kali in black form. I have seen Lord Krishna. I have seen Lord Shani. So these few Hindu leaders who are behaving like a kid, they cannot criticize that Rahul Gandhi was wearing a black color. This is my first answer towards your question, Padmaja. And I'm really grateful that you posed me this question. Being a Muslim, it's a matter of pride for me that I know Hindu religion as I know my Muslim religion. Because as an Indian, we must have our command on all kinds of religion. I have learned few things from Bhagwan Shri Ram. Let me complete first. Okay. I have learned few things from Bhagwan Shri Ram. Honesty, forgiveness, justice, equality. We should talk about equality. We should talk about justice. And what is Ram Raj? If you may allow me, I may pose one single question to my honorable sister appearing on the another side, that what is Ram Raj? Can she tell me the definition of Ram Raj? राम राज्य की सबसे सरल परिभाषा पद्मजा जी मैं आपको बताता हूं. एक बार मैं ट्रेन में सफर कर रहा था तो किसी ने पूछा, एक बहुत बड़े संत बैठे हुए थे, बीजेपी के संत नहीं थे, वो हमारे संत थे, हिंदू मुस्लिम के संत थे. उनसे पूछा गया कि भगवान श्री राम के बारे में अक्सर कहा जाता है कि राम राज्य जाएगा, तो राम राज्य है कहां, क्या है क्या? तो मैं आज आपके चैनल के माध्यम से सारे देशवासियों को बताना चाहता हूं कि राम राज्य क्या है. एक माँ की गोदी में जब एक बच्चा सोता रहता है और वो बिना किसी डर भय के वो अपनी माँ की गोद में नींद पूरी करता है ना, उस अवस्था को राम राज्य कहते हैं. तो क्या ये राम राज्य ये हिंदूवादी जो फर्जी नेता है क्या ये ला सकते हैं? और अपना फेलियर जस्ट बाय चैंटिंग जय श्री राम, दे कांट हाइड देयर फेलियर, दे कांट हाइड देयर इनकॉम्पिटेंस.
Okay, don't hide behind Lord Ram, Sanju Verma. Don't hide behind him. And Ehtisham Hashmi ने आपको एग्जांपल से दिया है कि to equate the color black with an insult is itself not cutting it.
Let me just 1 second. Padmaja, just
Okay, you made your opening point. Let us respond to it. It has been pleasant so far. Let's keep it pleasant. Yes. Go on, Sanju Verma.
Yes. Mr. Hashmi, I did not interrupt you. Thank you. You know, Padmaja, Mr. Hashmi ने राम राज्य पर कुछ बहुत अच्छे व्यूज दिए और मुझे जानकर खुशी हुई कि he spoke about honesty, equality, fearlessness, righteousness, which is what राम राज्य is all about. I will tell you one thing. अभी आप ये मत कहना कि बीजेपी की प्रवक्ता है तो ऐसा बोल रही हैं. राम राज्य के तहत सबसे अहम खूबी ये होती है कि सबसे शोषित, वंचित, सबसे गरीब हैं, उनको कैसे ऊपर लाया जाए. And let me tell you, world's largest financial inclusion program, जनधन योजना, जिसके तहत 45 crore accounts have been opened for the poor, कब हुआ? पिछले 8 सालों में. 80 करोड़ गरीबों को हर महीने कोविड महामारी के दौरान मुफ्त खाना किसने खिलाया? नरेंद्र मोदी की सरकार ने. आयुष्मान भारत, दी वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस स्कीम, किसने इसका शिलान्यास किया? नरेंद्र मोदी की सरकार ने. तो आप जब राइटियसनेस, फियरलेसनेस, इक्वालिटी, ये सब की परिभाषा जानना चाहते हैं तो जनधन योजना के बारे में बोलिए, आयुष्मान भारत के बारे में कुछ बोलिए, गरीब कल्याण योजना के बारे में बोलिए. इसलिए यहाँ बैठकर भाषण देना आसान है. राहुल गांधी को क्या आज का ही दिन मिला था जब राम जन्मभूमि के शिलान्यास की जयंती थी? क्या
आज ही का दिन मिला था? ओके, वी सर्कल बैक टू दैट. आज ही का दिन मिला था. गोकुल चंद्रन, सुमन सी रमन, गोकुल चंद्रन, यू गो फर्स्ट. आज ही का दिन मिला था. यू आर ऑल्सो वेयरिंग ब्लैक.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah. Good evening, Padmaja. See, the BJP spokesperson, when they open their mouth, the words are taking its own course without any control.
What is this, Padmaja?
When we are asking about idli and dosa, when we are talking about idli and dosa,
I have to say, Mr. Gokul Chandran though knew he had needled you, then he gave a pause because he expected a reaction, but he was disappointed today. So anyway, finish your point. Don't have to needle everyone. Like I said, let's keep it pleasant today for a change, Gokul Chandran. Go on.
Yeah, okay, sure. Okay, so what Mr. Amit Shah is telling, we can show how much low he thinks. He's a Home Minister of India. He has a respectable position, but very sadly, he has lowered his chair and lowered his grade. No, please. Sanju, please. Sanju,
Again,
please.
Not make
Sanju,
personal comments about people.
Sanju,
Sir, answer in substance.
Sanju, let me finish.
Why did he choose today to wear black? That is the question. Answer that.
Okay.
Not a dissertation on Amit Shah.
Because I am from Kerala, and when we visit Shabarimala, Lord Ayyappa, we wear black. So we consider this as a very holy color. So we doesn't mean that black is something unauspicious. We feel the black is a color of God. That's why we are wearing black. So you can take it that way also. Because people who mention black is unauspicious or something negative, they don't know about the South India, Kerala, the Shabarimala and all. So instead of talking on the point, instead of replying on the questions raised by opposition, it is very unfair for BJP and its spokesperson to talk negative things and to divert the issues. Today what happened? The Congress party hit the street and the whole nation is watching, and BJP is really rattled. So they are bringing up new issues.
But you assure you'll keep up the momentum, Gokul Chandran?
Without Ayodhya, they cannot survive.
After quite a while, you are right. There was quite a push by the Congress, but it's been a while. But is this going to continue, or this is it? And then there'll be like a long hiatus.
It will continue. We are going to.
Okay, rattled. Sanju Verma rattled.
Started. Wait for September, October, November, December. You wait.
Okay, go on, Sanju Verma.
Okay. You know, Mr. Gokul Chandran, I don't know, whether Padmaja is wearing black or dark navy blue, but the fact is that, she clearly seems to be on the other side. But be that as it may, I'll just quickly point out one thing. We are not against black. Black is one of my favorites as well. Let us go beyond these color-related semantics and dimensions. I just want to ask Gokul Chandran one thing. Show me one country.
Thank you.
Show me one country. Now please listen to me carefully. Show me one country where you flout the Income Tax Act, you flout the Companies Act, You flout the PMLA Act. You buy into 5,000 crore worth of assets with just 50 lakh worth of rupees, and you don't want the investigative agencies to even probe you. निगाहें कहीं निशाना कहीं और था कांग्रेस का. They are rattled because the National Herald has been completely put in the dock.
But they are saying we are not even talking about the National Herald today. हम आज National Herald नहीं, हम प्याज टमाटर की बात कर रहे हैं.
पद्मजा जी, पेट में दर्द नेशनल हेरल्ड का है, पेट में दर्द महंगाई का नहीं है, पेट में दर्द बेरोजगारी का नहीं है.
सुमन रमन इज स्माइलिंग. सुमन रमन
पेट का उबाल नेशनल हेरल्ड के हो रहा है.
The first thing I want to point out is I find it fascinating that 2,000 crore worth assets as of last night on many debates is now 5,000 crores. I mean, this must be really dramatic appreciation in the value of those assets between last night and today, because you know that the ability to sort of spin a yarn is amazing, and this story of how it was an insult to the Ram Janmabhoomi, the Shilanyas, is incredible. When does the story come out? This is first reported in the evening of the day. The Congress announced this protest, as I remember, at least on 1st of August, if not earlier. Definitely on the 1st of August, it was in public domain. And assuming that they did not know at that stage that they were going to wear black, the whole day they wore black. And nobody thought of the Shilanyas and this black being worn as a protest for the Shilanyas. Suddenly by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, but you have to, the BJP should publicly identify who is the person who came up with this idea, so that even something as innocuous as a protest against price rise can be given a communal polarization factor.
Okay. Respond.
No, one
quick
point.
rebuttal from Sanju Verma, because you asked for identification. Who came up with the idea, Sanju Verma?
Yeah, they should come and, it would be nice.
Okay. Kumar Raman, first and foremost, why this dichotomy between 2,000 crore and 5,000 crore? At the time, AGL decided to close down because it was lost.
No, yesterday on debate,
please let me, I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you, please. At the time, it decided to wind down operations. The book value of the assets was 2,000 crore or maybe slightly more. But as we speak today, the malls in Lucknow, Bhopal, Mumbai, Delhi, etc., the market value is more than 5,000 crore. I hope I have explained the difference to you between book value and market value of assets. Now I will answer the most important point. We have no problem. You wear black, you wear white, you dress up like a rainbow. But the fact is you chose the wrong occasion, because for Hindus black is not auspicious. Though I've said, ideally, otherwise I would prefer black on most occasions. Point number 2, this is not about color dimensions. I will repeat. This is the same Congress party. I remember Joshi Tharoor's statement ahead of 2019 results being declared. He said if BJP comes to power again, there will be the resurrection of Hindu Taliban. After 26/11, the Congress said, "Ye to RSS ki sazish hai," because you people have been demonized.
Three sentences. Let me finish my point.
Okay, Suman Raman, finish your point. Suman Raman, finish your point.
My point is very simple. I think the visuals, particularly the visuals of Priyanka Gandhi being manhandled by those policemen and being dragged, and particularly, I don't know whether you saw. One second. I didn't interrupt her. Particularly, there was this video of a policewoman's elbow being planted on her neck. I don't know whether you played it out. I don't think you would have played it out, Padmaja, for obvious reasons.
No, hold on a second. No, hold on a second. This is what is not okay. You're not even watching your TV. It is on your screens as you speak. This kind of disingenuous rubbish is very wrong and very unfair. I take strong objection to it, Suman Raman. It is very easy to sit there on a platform that is given to you and attribute motives wrongly to people.
Show me the video.
All right?
Show me the video.
All right. Hold your peace, play the video. I'll play it right now. It has been playing. You haven't even been seeing. Here it is on your screen. Here. Right here. Here it is. This is the video, and we played it in the daytime, we played it in the evening. But anyway, I am not in any way desirous of a certificate from you. You can please complete your point and then say that democracy is dying and you are not being given a voice. Go on. Go on. Go on. Go. Go on.
Where is the elbow on her neck? That video I'm talking
Just because
about.
you can't see it is not my problem.
I can't see
it. has been playing through the day. Okay, let's freeze. Let's freeze it because Mr. Sumansi Raman cannot see it clearly. Go on. Make your point and then say that democracy is dying in this country. Go on.
No. My point is very clear, Padmaja, and I think that the way you have reacted itself.
Here it is. Here. This is the video you're talking about. It ran all day and it's running right now. But anyway, go on.
Video from another angle. Very clear.
अब भैया आपसे पूछ के थोड़ी ना एंगल चलाएंगे. अब now first you had a problem for obvious reasons you are not going to run it. Now it's run. Now you have a problem with different angle you are running. Anyway, we're not getting into a tutu meme asking for your certificate. Please go on.
Let me make my point.
Yes, make your point. Which is the whole point at the beginning. To make your point.
The whole point at the beginning is to make the point that these visuals have definitely unnerved the BJP. The fact that Priyanka Gandhi was clearly manhandled by the police. And the fact that the Congress was able to put up, look, the Congress very clearly said that they were putting up a protest against the treatment of their leaders in the National Herald case last week, the previous week. Did they or did they not accept it? Today when they say it's price rise, you immediately come back and say, no. Actually it is National Herald only. Then last week they said it's National Herald. Previous week they said it's National Herald. Why should this also be National Herald?
Okay, I'm going to end it at that. See? What has happened through the day is on your screens and has been on your screens through the day. The way the public perceives it, picks it up, and how far has the message managed to percolate to the public will depend on how well the BJP is able to firefight. This is a real issue. Has the Congress managed to capture imagination, or is this going to in any way dent the messaging that has happened through the day? We leave it to your judgment. Thanks very much, all gentlemen, and Sanju Verma for joining me. There is no respite in sight for former West Bengal Minister Partha Chatterjee and his close aide Arpita Mukherjee as their ED custody came to an end. They were sent to 14 days of judicial custody, which means that they will now be shifted to a jail. The ED will be, however, allowed to interrogate the two inside the jail as well in the teachers' recruitment scam. While opposing the bail plea moved by Chatterjee's lawyer, ED highlighted how the suspended TMC leader could use his clout to influence witnesses, also mentioning how he had been highly non-cooperative even during custodial interrogation, refusing to sign seizure documents for papers found at his own home, and all this despite massive cash haul amounting to almost 50 crores. Partha Chatterjee's advocate countered the charges, saying that no one has come out and said that he had asked for a bribe either to the CBI or the ED, dismissing the non-cooperation charge, citing his innocence and age. But what created maximum ripples was the sensational oral admission by the agency in court on Arpita Mukherjee. They said that they fear a threat to her life and also asked the court to order testing her water and food before it is served to her in jail. This claim led to the court to order necessary steps to be taken to ensure that Arpita remains safe and secure in jail. While no such precautionary steps have been prescribed for Partha, the BJP is citing this development to allege that even Partha's life could be at risk since they have exposed the rot in the TMC's ranks.
मेरा तो मन बोल रहा है सिर्फ अर्पिता का नहीं, पार्थ चटर्जी का भी लाइफ थ्रेट है. तो कारण पार्थ चटर्जी ने जो भाषा कहा, जो हम षड्यंत्र का शिकार है, उससे तृणमूल कांग्रेस में एक बड़ा नेता लोग बहुत डर रहा है. किसका नाम बोल दे, सारे तथ्य कैसे उन्होंने प्रेस का सामने या कोर्ट का सामने लाए, इसके लिए डर रहे तृणमूल का नेता लोग. इसीलिए पार्थ चटर्जी भी थ्रेट में है. इसलिए पार्थ चटर्जी और अर्पिता दोनों का सुरक्षा में पूरा ध्यान देना चाहिए.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Alright, joining us on the debate, Sanju Verma continues with us, Baisakhi Banerjee, political analyst, and Ban Banerjee, political analyst. And the first question is to you, Professor Manijit Mandal, spokesperson of the TMC. Who would try and kill Arpita Mukherjee?
I mean, who is saying this? I really don't understand.
It is the ED who has said this in court, sir.
Some days back, you're all after both of them. That's ED's problem. ED can say anything. ED is, again, it is proven beyond reasonable doubt. The ED is unable to crack the case, prove the case, despite the fact that they got about 13-14 days time in their custody. It again validates our point that the ED is abysmally a failed organization with having just 0.5%, not even 0.5% of conviction rate, just targeting the opposition parties. You know, everyone knows how Trinamool Congress, Abhishek Banerjee, his family,
so you're saying that they are lying.
Leaders are systematically targeted for the last 4 years. I'm not saying anything. What I'm saying is amply clear. The ED, why did not they ask for the custody? Has the case been cracked? Are they already confident about giving them charge sheet?
But the ED's apprehensions are wrong. Why did the court order for security to be given?
You are talking about this is a mountain of cash, such a humongous, you know.
Why did the court ask for security to be given to Arpita Mukherjee if that is
days of the custody,
immaterial?
ED has completed the investigation. We are asking this question. In fact, we still want a time-bound investigation and logical conclusion of the case as soon as possible.
Sanju Verma, this is nothing but a fig leaf because the ED has failed, so now they have cooked up this fantastical theory of poisoning. Sanju Verma.
Padmaja, I did not interrupt Manojit Mandal. I hope the good professor will extend me the courtesy. I just want to say one very important thing.
Rest assured, madam. Which
is very important for your viewers. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mandal. I did not interrupt you. Padmaja, when did the ED take Arpita Mukherjee and Partha Chatterjee into custody? July 23rd, 2022, and till date they were in ED custody. And now I think it's a victory for the ED that now they will be in judicial custody, which means they go behind prison bars, and ED has been given the right to interrogate them in judicial custody, which I think is very, very important. This only happens when there is more than prima facie evidence. This is what the court has said. And let me tell you one other very important thing. You know, sitting here and saying that the ED has a strike rate of 0.5%, why don't you also mention that the ED in the last 8 years has confiscated assets worth 99,356 crores? Why don't you talk about the fact that there have been 888 prosecution cases filed by the ED in the last 8 years, whereas only 104 prosecution cases were filed in the 10 years of UPA. So please stop doubting the bona fides of ED. The Supreme Court on July 27, 2022 said ED has the right to conduct search and seizure.
Okay, this is not about the antecedents of the ED. Let me ask you, Baisakhi Banerjee, since you have yourself been conversant with the facts of the case, who would want to harm Arpita Mukherjee? Or is this only a theory being cooked up by the ED?
No, certainly not. I would like to point out just one thing. Today, suddenly, after so many days, a new theory is coming up that Partha Chatterjee's advocate is saying that he doesn't know Arpita to that extent. He has met her. He has met her a number of times in the Puja Mandap, and from there the joint properties have developed. 31 LICs have developed, and so many fake companies, so many properties have developed. From this kind of a theory, which if cooked by an influential politician like Partha Chatterjee, there is a clear signal that a conspiracy is being hatched against women like Arpita, who has been used as almost a private bank where this ill-gotten money was stashed. Now there is a threat that she can just open up Pandora's box, she can just gulp out things, and she has already gulped out things which has threatened a number of people. Perhaps we are only seeing the tips of the iceberg. We are only seeing Partha Chatterjee, who is right now under the radar. There can be many
more. So who are you insinuating?
And that is why
who are you insinuating could hurt her?
This is no figment of imagination.
And why would they hurt her?
No, I am just pointing out to the thing that if Definitely they would want to hush up the entire scam. That is we have seen just a little bit of it. I myself had been a part of this educational system, and I have seen that the system has rotten from the core. So and this person who is right now in the ED custody, who is right now in the jail custody, had been caught by ED. Partha Chatterjee had been responsible for cooking up this entire mess. So I cannot say that there was no conspiracy, and this is just a figment of imagination that Orpita can be harmed. If ED has hinted to some kind of harm for Orpita, there must be some well-connected theory behind it.
Anirban Banerjee, well-connected people who would want to silence an inconvenient Arpita.
See, the moment you bring up the issue that a woman might be stalked and harmed or even murdered, only one politician who is currently active in the scenario, his name comes to mind, who was supposedly in jail for 82 or 90 days for a fake encounter, and also there were allegations of stalking a woman and killing her.
Anirban Banerjee, can we please stick to the point? Why do we always have to make things vile and completely irrelevant? Let's stick to the topic. Who would want to harm Arpita?
Yeah, that is the topic. Whenever this kind of a situation comes up, only one person comes to mind. I'm forgetting his name. I think you know him very well. But anyway,
I mean, Baisakhi Banerjee is saying very clearly, there is a rot in the education system. There were people who filled their pockets and lined their nests. And there are those same people in Bengal who would want Arpita out of the way or shut up. Now, who are those people? Professor Manojit Mandal. Who are those people who would be harmed if Arpita starts speaking?
If there are more people, then ED has to come up with definite information. What are they doing? I mean, we have got nothing to do with the case. Mr. Partha Chatterjee was in the ministry. Yes, he was a very important part of the ministry. Yes, he was a very important part of the party. But we took barely 5-6 days to take action. And look at even till now the man is not even charge sheeted. That's the moral standing of the party and the government.
There is threat to the life of Arpita Mukherjee.
Who are these people?
Let's look at the options.
I mean, how do you answer such a question?
Who could gain by harming Arpita?
We are very clear. The party has got no connection with the case, neither with the money, nor with the woman.
Who could gain by harming Arpita?
Not with Mr. Partha Chatterjee.
Today there is a very serious allegation. This is not a joke.
To protect them, he wants to, send friend requests to them.
I need to make
if the BJP wants to
who could gain?
Mr. Partha Chatterjee,
Who could gain? Sanju Verma, who could gain? See, like they say in a financial fraud, you have to follow the money. In this case, you have to follow the lead of who would gain.
As soon as possible.
Who would gain?
They can prevaricate like they have been doing for many other cases.
Okay.
The systematic targeting of the
Sanju Verma, who could gain? Okay, Professor Mandal, who could gain? Sanju Verma, who could gain?
Padmaja, it's very important for you and your audience, I'm sure you're aware of this, that when you are sent into judicial custody, the accused is not just the responsibility of the state government, but also the court under section 167 of the CRPC Code of 1973. So if, it has been said that Arpita Chatterjee's food, water, etc. should be tested before it is given to her, this is a serious matter and no laughing matter. It means that the magistrate has taken this threat on board. And let me tell you that one of the main residences of Arpita Mukherjee from where floor the cash was recovered was in Belgharia, where TMC has its office. Its key registered office is in Belgharia. Your TMC leaders used to go in and out of Belgharia office. Are you saying you were not aware of what was happening in Arpita Mukherjee's residence? Partha Chatterjee was in and out of Belgharia every single day, and joint properties have been confiscated, which showcase that both Partha and Arpita were working.
Okay, so let me ask you then. You are saying that there is an undeniable connection. Baisakhi Banerjee, I'm going to ask you point blank. Who would gain from having Arpita out of the way?
See, I feel that the kind of scam that has been exposed, this is so huge. It can't be the handiwork of just single Partha Chatterjee. There is a very well-built network and very important people associated with it, because I have seen that when I was a part of the system, recommendations used to pour in from every corner and from almost all influential people.
Who?
Now, how many of them
Like
were
who?
simple
Are they
recommendations,
politically connected
and how
people?
many of them were in lieu of money? That has to be yes, politically connected people have now become, actually they have now tried to monopolize education sector, and they have tried to exert their political influence to, and as a result the meritorious has been
so are these political parties of West Bengal who would be trying to silence Arpita Mukherjee?
Of course.
Okay. Anirban Banerjee, you were wondering whether it is somebody who has been in jail and fake encounter. You have Baisakhi Banerjee saying it's a prominent political party in West Bengal who would want to silence Arpita.
The Baisakhi Didi is a leader of the BJP. She will naturally blame the state government and the TMC for everything. But for the sake of the judicial system, I'd actually request her that if she has the detailed information about this entire so-called scam, why not go ahead and supply those information to the ED, and also support the demand of Madam Mamata Banerjee that the ED conclude the entire investigation with 90 days. I think that is a very reasonable demand.
That when time will come, I will definitely expose each and every one, because I was associated with the higher education. The school service, definitely I was not associated with. Had I been having an iota of information, I would have readily gone as a responsible citizen. Because instead of hiding the crime, this is a time that we should expose the crime, because the entire future of the nation is ruined by people like you who are trying to defend the indefensible.
No, ma'am, why is this not the right time? I mean, why not go ahead just tomorrow?
Am I being asked about the higher education? Once the higher education thing will come, I will definitely go. And for your information, I have went down all the charges of corruption I've sent to the right authorities. I hope that will be taken up in due course of time.
So, ma'am, why wait? What is due course of time? Is this not a very good time?
You are now playing with words. Don't juggle with words.
No, I am not playing with any words.
This
you have the
cannot be done by single Partha Chatterjee. He has got a very wonderful network.
Why not go ahead and help the ED with
this kind of the huge amount of money, this can't come only from school service. This has got a huge. Partha Chatterjee has monopolized the entire education sector.
Okay.
From the highest to the absolute.
Okay, these are the charges being made by you, but the issue and the allegation today is very simple. From corruption, it has gone to a point where witnesses or people who are accused are facing a threat to her life, and this is not being said by anyone except the investigating agency itself. So if there are more people involved, like Baisakhi Banerjee seems to be suggesting, one has to ensure that the witnesses involved are kept safe and every piece of evidence is kept secure. Thanks very much, all gentlemen. Sanju Verma and Baisakhi Banerjee for joining me. Thanks for watching.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
The fact of the matter is, whether it is imported inflation, whether it is tinkering of GST for a longer period, the fact is that the burden is on the common man. And the common man, frankly, doesn't really care about what's happening in the United States, or the UK or Russia or Ukraine. They're worried about their day-to-day living and the per capita incomes where they are in India.
You're watching the News Hour at 10.
UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath today reviewed development projects and law and order situation in Varanasi. He also visited Kashi Vishwanath and Kal Bhairav temples to inspect arrangements made for devotees arriving in the month of Shravan. Telangana Rashtra Samiti has decided to support the combined opposition candidate Margaret Alva in the election for Vice President's post. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal announces distribution of Tirangas in Delhi, 25 lakh Tirangas to be handed out across the national capital. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee chaired an important meeting of TMC MPs in Delhi today. The meeting was chaired to discuss plan for the upcoming 2024 elections. Trouble mounts for TMC leader. CBI summons TMC Birbhum President Anubrata Mondal on the 8th of August in cattle smuggling case.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break. Hour at 10.
Successfully test-fired the indigenously developed laser-guided anti-tank missiles by DRDO. The test fire took place at a military installation in Maharashtra's Ahmednagar. The RBI has increased repo rate by 50 basis points. It is now up to 5.4%, back to the pre-pandemic levels, and the highest since 2019. This is the third increase this year. With increase in repo rates by the central bank, interest rates are also likely to go up. Home and car loans are also likely to increase. A 12-year-old child in Jharkhand has exposed the rot in educational infrastructure in the state. Sarfaraz shot a video and exposed the plight of his school that did not have teachers, toilets, or drinking water. Fear of a fourth wave of COVID-19 might be gripping India, as nation reported more than 20,000 cases in the last 24 hours.
The most pressing issue, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು, ನೈತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ತೆಯ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನೆಹರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಋಣ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ 2 ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ಊಟ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಿಂಚತ್ತು ತ್ಯಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ತಯಾರಾಗದೆ ಹೋದರೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಳು ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ.
He has openly confessed, he has openly admitted. In fact, taking this cognizance, I think our agencies should book a case, should really book a case against him and also make an enquiry, because he would be knowing who are all the beneficiaries.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching the News Night with me, Priya Bahel. First up, the top stories. Congress leaders take to streets to oppose inflation and unemployment. Over 300 protesters, including Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka, detained for violating Section 144.
बचाने के लिए मैं क्यों आऊंगा? मैं अपने नेता को बचाने के लिए आऊंगा. मेरा नेता मुझे बचाता है.
Senior Congress leader reveals the real reason for taking to the streets. Says they were protesting with the aim of saving their leaders. BJP cites comment to allege Congress's stir is just a stunt.
कांग्रेस ने आज का दिन काले कपड़ों में विरोध के लिए सिलेक्ट किया है कि हम राम जन्मभूमि के शिलान्यास का विरोध करते हैं.
Union Home Minister accuses the Congress of appeasement politics, says black clothes protest was against the foundation ceremony of Ram Temple in Ayodhya. Partha and Arpita sent to judicial custody for 14 days to be questioned by ED in jail now. Agency tells court intel shows grave threat to Arpita's life. Jail authorities told to ensure safety. On the third anniversary of Article 370 abrogation, Kashmiris picked tricolour over fearmongers. No takers for Mehbooba Mufti, who says those waving tricolour today may see it being changed to saffron soon. Out on bail, Alt News co-founder generates controversy yet again. Zubair claims many Kashmiri children with him in Tihar jail booked for social media posts. Jail authorities categorically deny the claims. BJP leader Shrikant Tyagi caught on camera assaulting a woman in a Noida housing society. Threatens and abuses a resident who had objected to plantation of some trees by him in violation of laws. Booked.
आराम से सर, आराम से.
A 12-year-old child uses a stick on an empty bottle to expose the sorry state of affairs at his former school in Jharkhand. No teachers, no toilets. Video goes viral. State suspends 2 teachers. Wrestler Bajrang Punia wins his second consecutive Commonwealth Games gold. Sakshi Malik also wins a gold medal after pinning down reigning under-23 world champion Anna Godinez of Canada. 8 golds now in India's kitty. Now a story that comes from a housing society in Noida, which could have been a story of you, I and anybody else. This mindset needs to be punished. The person that you see on your screens right now is Shrikant Tyagi, the man who is wearing a black mask and very animatedly pointing at a girl in a red t-shirt. Shrikant Tyagi is the national executive member of BJP's Kisan Morcha. He is hurling abuses and sexist slurs which are too ghastly even to put out on air at a female resident in a Noida housing society. This Neta is so drunk on power and entitlement that he got infuriated when this woman confronted him for encroaching on society's land that does not belong to him. This is what transpired after that.
तेरे पति को भी जानता हूँ को मैं, समझी? अगर लगाना पेड़ तो इलाज कर देना कहीं पर, बुला के स्टाफ को. तुझे 2 बोरी के गाड़ देगा, तू क्यों उखाड़ देगी यहाँ? ये मेरी प्रॉपर्टी है.
किसने कहा?
अरे हमने खरीदी है भाई.
पूरी?
ये है पूरी. तू मालिक है यहाँ की?
मैं अपने फ्लैट की मालिक.
तो जा वहाँ चल, वहाँ चल. इसे लेके आए थे.
कोई नहीं.
वरना राजवीर से ध्यान रखना तू. तू चली जाएगी वैसे भी इलाज करके यहाँ से. चल.
जो है लीगल वो होएगा, लीगल कुछ नहीं होगा.
कुछ ना कर पाएगी तो चल यहाँ से.
आप तो बिल्कुल मत लगाना.
ले.
अपनी लैंग्वेज देख.
तुझे जानता हूँ.
नोएडा के सेक्टर 93B से भाजपा नेता द्वारा एक महिला से अभद्र भाषा करने का वीडियो वायरल हो रहा है. बताया जा रहा है कि उस वीडियो में एक भाजपा नेता एक महिला से अभद्र भाषा कर रहा है. मैं इस वक्त नोएडा के सेक्टर 93B के उस सोसाइटी पर मौजूद हूं जहां पर यह मामला हुआ था. देखिए, नोएडा के सेक्टर 93B की ग्रैंड ओमेक्स सोसाइटी है। यहीं पर वो झगड़ा भाजपा नेता और एक महिला के साथ हुआ। दरअसल वो भाजपा नेता श्रीकांत त्यागी है, जो कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी के किसान मोर्चा का राष्ट्रीय कार्यकारिणी सदस्य है। हालांकि बताया ये जा रहा है कि उस वीडियो में बताया जाए कि महिला कोई अवैध कब्जा कर रहा था। श्रीकांत शर्मा, ये महिला का लगातार आरोप है। उन्होंने एक पार्क में पेड़ को लेकर झगड़ा विवाद हुआ और लगातार ये बताया जा रहा है कि वो श्रीकांत त्यागी अपने जगह को कब्जा करके अपने पेड़ को प्राइवेट पार्क बनाना चाहता था, लेकिन महिला ने विरोध किया। इसी को लेकर उनमें झगड़ा हुआ और उसने अभद्र भाषा का यूज किया। मामला बढ़ता देखते पुलिस मौके पर पहुंची। पुलिस ने समझाया, लेकिन पुलिस ने उस भाजपा नेता श्रीकांत त्यागी के खिलाफ धारा 354 के मुकदमा दर्ज कर लिया है। हालांकि अभी की स्थिति यह है कि श्रीकांत त्यागी यहां से फरार हो चुके हैं और हमने बात करने की कोशिश की, जो पीड़ित है जिनके साथ अभद्र भाषा हुआ बोला था त्यागी ने, उनसे हमने बात की, लेकिन वो बोलने को तैयार नहीं है।
Now, the man who hurls sexist slurs at a woman in real life dons the avatar of a crusader for women's rights when it comes to social media platforms. He paid tribute to Nari Shakti on International Women's Day, but in real life, he is just a pervert and sexist person who does not hesitate in threatening a woman who dares to challenge his illegal acts. The Noida police have now registered an FIR against him, but he's yet to be arrested. He's been charged with assault or use of criminal force on a woman. The latest information coming in is that he is untraceable. The victim says that this "I am a neta, so what can you do about it" attitude needs to be punished.
ग्रैंड ओमैक्स में रहती हूँ। एक यहाँ ग्राउंड फ्लोर का बंदा है जो एनक्रोचमेंट कर रहा था। छोटे प्लांट्स बड़े प्लांट्स लगा रहा था। बड़े प्लांट्स वो बहुत पहले लगा चुका था, अब छोटे प्लांट्स लगाए। मैंने आके बोला कि ये प्लांट्स हटा दो, तो वो नहीं मान रहा था। मैंने हटाया तो बोलता है अगर तू मेरे पौधे छुएगी तो मैं तुझे छूऊंगा। बैड लैंग्वेजेस। मैं तब भी आप करके उससे बात करी थी, पर उसने तब भी मुझे बहुत गालियां दी। उसका नाम श्रीकांत त्यागी है। उसने मुझे भी बदतमीजी से बोला, मेरे हस्बैंड के लिए भी बोला और बच्चों के लिए भी बोला।
Now, the Noida incident has armed the opposition. It is asking only one question: when will this man be arrested? This is not a lone incident when it comes to this particular person. In 2019, Gautam Budh Nagar DM had written to his Ghaziabad counterpart requesting him to consider the security cover to Shrikant Tyagi. In his letter, the DM clearly mentions that Tyagi has encroached on society land and is using security personnel to threaten the residents, not just the police. We are also asking whether BJP is going to take action against this man who is a neta, who is a part of their rank and file, and yet an abjectly sexist, misogynist person. Moving on to another story, and this is quite an interesting one coming in from Jharkhand, where tired by lack of basic facilities and denial of his very basic right to education, a 12-year-old child exposed Jharkhand government under CM Hemant Soren and their lack of focus on educational infrastructure. Forced to leave his school because of pathetic conditions there, this 12-year-old boy named Sarfaraz made a video of his old school. Sarfaraz turned a reporter armed with a broken bottle tied to the end of a stick and showed the plight of the school in this video. He said that he used to study in this very school in the past, but such was the situation that he was forced to leave. There were no teachers, there were no toilets, there wasn't even water to drink.
मैं बताता जा रहा हूँ, मैं कहाँ पहुँचा हूँ तो अब तक कर्मिक प्राथमिक विद्यालय भिकियाचक में पहुँचा हूँ। इसका मकसद क्या हुआ? मैं आपने कहा ये देखिए, आप दिखाए कैमरा में इधर। जैसे कि मैं बता जा रहा हूँ, स्कूल खुल गए, घर में सो गया है, खाली हाजिरी बनाने आता है इस स्कूल में। देखिए एक भी बच्चा नहीं है। बच्चे से पूछेंगे क्यों नहीं इस स्कूल में पढ़ने आते आप लोग? आप स्कूल में क्यों नहीं पढ़ने आते भाई? क्यों नहीं पढ़ने तो पढ़ाते नहीं है। लेट्रिन करने भी बहुत तकलीफ होते हैं। और पानी का व्यवस्था क्या होता है? पानी वहाँ बहुत दूर जाने पड़ता है। और इधर दिखाए कैमरामैन, इधर आ रहा हूँ, देखिए अभी लैट्रिन का व्यवस्था मैं बताता जा रहा हूँ कि इस स्कूल में लैट्रिन का व्यवस्था नहीं है। क्यों नहीं है ये बता रहा हूँ कि इस स्कूल में लैट्रिन का व्यवस्था करना चाहिए। क्या कर रहा है सरकार? ये देखिए क्या क्या है लैट्रिन में। अब देखिए यह है इलेक्ट्रिक, कैसा है स्वच्छ भारत अभी चल रहा है अभियान, तो कैसा ये स्कूल है, बच्चे को बाहर भेजते हैं, कैसा स्वच्छ भारत किसा कहते हैं हम लोग। और देखिए हम कैमरा मैन इधर से कहे चापाकल भी अभी तक कोई नहीं हुआ है, चापाकल में अभी कोई नहीं हुआ है। देखिए पानी पीने व्यवस्था कहाँ आते हैं बच्चे लोग, यह देखिए जंगल है स्कूल में, कैसा ये सरकार है, कैसा ध्यान। अब इधर जा रहा है, अब बताता जा रहा हूँ, इधर से कैमरा मैन रूम में क्या भरा है, देखिए ये रूम में क्या है, देखिए ये रूम में क्या है, कुट्टी धरा है। और देखिए कैमरा मैन इधर से खाइए, देखिए इधर क्या है, रूम है, ये स्कूल का रूम है। क्या देखिए स्कूल में सोनी सब रखता है, कैसा स्कूल है भाई। अभी देखिए ऐसा स्कूल क्या बच्चे लोग पढ़ने नहीं आता है, तब कहता है पढ़ने नहीं आता है, बोले क्यों नहीं आता है पढ़ने आप लोग, यहाँ पे पढ़ाई नहीं होता है, और लेटरिन भी खराब है, पानी भी जा रही है। यहाँ मद्देनजर रखते हुए मेरे बात को, इस स्कूल को जो भी व्यवस्था करवाना है तो करवा ले, और मास्टर को भी ये कह दे कि स्कूल का भी पैसा आता है लेकिन स्कूल का रिपेयरिंग क्यों नहीं कर पाता, टंकी और चापाकल, एक भी टीचर नहीं स्कूल में। अभी टाइम हो रहा है 12:45 होता होगा, देखिए अभी आज का दिन है गुरुवार।
Meanwhile, after the video went viral, 2 teachers have been ordered to be relieved by the Block Education Committee following orders of the Education Minister, who took note of the matter. But this shocking video exposes the sad reality of apathy and negligence having a direct impact on the very basic rights of citizens, while netas accountable to the electorate are busy indulging in alleged corrupt practices and filling their pockets. On the right side of your screens, you can see visuals, if I could request my PCR to play out that visual of wads of cash recovered from 3 Congress MLAs of the state a few days ago. Probably if the government was less focused on usurping power or sticking to power, they could focus on actually what matters, the plight of people. The Jharkhand government has a budget estimate of 14,220 crore rupees for this financial year, out of which approximately 2,000 crores have been allocated for educational purposes, 665 crore for midday meal program. Sarfaraz, however, clearly shows that these allocations have not been put to good use. Instead, the state government has been involved in several scams. Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren himself is under the scanner for mining licenses that have been allegedly acquired illegally. But Times Now spoke to this person, this 12-year-old child who eventually was so fed up of the rot that had taken over his school that he decided to take matters in his own hands. While speaking to me earlier, he said that after he had exposed the school's situation, a teacher actually came to his house not to apologize but to threaten him. सरफराज, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है टाइम्स नाउ में। आपने एक जर्नलिस्ट बनकर जिन चीजों का खुलासा किया है वो तो बहुत बड़े बड़े लोग भी नहीं कर पाते हैं। आपने जो ये वीडियो बनाया है, इसके पीछे कारण क्या था?
टीचर भी नहीं आता था और पढ़ाई भी नहीं होता था, हाजिरी बना के चला आता था। जब से स्कूल बना है 2003 से।
अच्छा, तो टीचर पढ़ाने नहीं आते थे, बच्चे स्कूल पहुंचते थे लेकिन उनकी क्लासेस नहीं होती थी। और क्या कहना चाहते हैं आप अपने टीचर्स के बारे में? क्या वो क्वालिफाइड थे पढ़ाने के लिए?
शुरू में कुछ ठीक था, उसके बाद ऐसा हाल हुआ, वहाँ पढ़ाई नहीं होता था सर, और अटेंडेंस बना के घर में सो जाता था।
अच्छा, और क्या यही कारण था कि बच्चे स्कूल में नहीं आ रहे थे?
बच्चे भी उस दिन नहीं थे जिस दिन हम वीडियो बनाए। पढ़ाई नहीं होता था, बच्चे भी नहीं आता था।
अच्छा, तो जब आपका वीडियो बन गया, पोस्ट हो गया, अब तो हम देख रहे हैं वायरल भी हो गया है, क्या स्कूल से किसी ने आपसे बात करने की कोशिश की, कुछ चेंजेस लाए गए स्कूल में?
घर पे आके धमकाने लगा सर, तमीजुद्दीन और उसका परिवार।
अच्छा, और हमने ही सुना है कि आपको धमकी भी दी गई थी ये वीडियो बनाने के बाद। किसने दी थी आपको ये धमकी?
स्टाफ है सर, वो मोहम्मद तमीजुद्दीन मास्टर।
अच्छा, तो कैसे दी उन्होंने धमकी? आपको स्कूल बुलाया गया या वो लोग आपके घर आए आपको डराने के लिए, या आपके माता पिता को डराया?
घर पे आके यही कहा कि बेटे को समझा लो वरना थाने में रिपोर्ट दे दूंगा।
अच्छा, तो उसके बाद फिर आपने क्या किया? क्या आप लोगों ने कोई कंप्लेंट फाइल की है या आपने कोई सुरक्षा की मांग की है? क्या अभी आपको पुलिस की तरफ से कोई सिक्योरिटी दी गई है?
हमने कहा सर हमको डर नहीं है मुझे।
बहुत ही ब्रेव हैं आप, इतनी छोटी उम्र में आप एक सरकार के खिलाफ बोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि वहां पर जो गवर्नमेंट है ऑब्वियसली यू आर पॉइंटिंग आउट प्रॉब्लम्स इन देयर स्कीम्स एंड पॉलिसीज। ऐसे में आप झारखंड के चीफ मिनिस्टर जो हेमंत सोरेन हैं उनसे आप क्या कहना चाहते हैं?
मुख्यमंत्री से ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि उस मास्टर को हटा दे।
ओके, दैट्स एन इनोसेंट चाइल्ड ओवर देयर। थैंक यू सरफराज, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे बात करने के लिए। In some other stories that made headlines, in a humanitarian gesture, Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy of Andhra Pradesh stopped his convoy to help a mother and her specially abled child. He approved the pension for the child and his family and offered a financial assistance of 10,000 rupees to the mother during his visit to Tuni village in Kakinada district. Police administration is on alert mode ahead of Independence Day in Amritsar in Punjab. Officials were seen taking stock of security situation in the city, which is close to the borders. NIA has arrested Chota Shakil's henchman Salim in Mumbai. The central agency will further inquire Salim about the D gang. Two people have been arrested with 2 kilograms of gold in Madhya Pradesh's Gwalior. Gold worth 1 crore rupees has been seized during a routine checking at the railway station. India has successfully test-fired the indigenously developed laser-guided anti-tank missiles by DRDO. The test fire took place at a military installation in Maharashtra's Ahmednagar. As rains continue to lash central and south districts of Kerala, the spillway shutters of Mullaperiyar Dam and Malampuzha Dam were opened. Over 28,000 litres of water was released from these dams. There could be fears of a fourth wave of COVID-19 as India has reported more than 20,000 cases just in the last 24 hours. 20,551 new COVID infections were reported. Now, the national capital today witnessed hundreds of Congress workers hitting the streets, donning black clothes. Congress staged dharna for rising unemployment, inflation and for the grievances of the common man, or so they claimed. Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi led the charge. Rahul Gandhi, while addressing a press conference in the morning, alleged that the democracy in country was dead and all the central agencies and institutions were working at the behest of the RSS. This was the reason provided by Congress for their pre-planned march to the President's house. Several Congress leaders, including Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, were seen braving rains to carry out their protest march for the cause. But some senior leaders of the grand old party were wondering how to step out amidst the downpour.
It's raining out to go out. It's raining out to go out.
Are we to believe that Congress workers wanted was a